put the extra lights on. It's Friday night. I'm doing my favorite thing in the whole world. I'm talking football. You're in for a treat today because I am going to break down the entire NFC. Keep in mind, June 1st free agency will start, and then after June 1st, things are going to change. There's going to be free agent signings, of course, training camp. Unfortunately, there's probably going to be an injury or two. That's just the way the NFL works. But it's football season's right around the corner. We're about 3 months away. It's going to be a great season, and I'm going to break down the NFC. But before I break down the NFC, I want to talk about two big key signings in the AFC. Jalen Waddle got a big contract extension, well-deserved. Every time I watch the Miami Dolphins, I always say the same exact thing. I always walk away impressed by how good Jalen Waddle is. Now, keep in mind, Tyreek Hill's probably the better out of the two, okay? And that's fair. It makes sense. But every time I watch the Dolphins play, I'm always impressed of how good Jalen Waddle is. Locking him down, I thought was key. The Tua contract's going to be an interesting thing. And then earlier, Nico Johnson signed a massive extension with the Houston Texans. And I thought this was genius because even though you bring Diggs in, Nico Collins has to be the number one guy. He has to be the number one guy. And can Diggs go into this situation and say, you know what, I'm going to help this guy who's bigger, stronger, faster, learn the nuances of playing the receiver position? Is he going to help him become a better player? Because if he does, then, there's no ceiling. But both these are really good moves. And I've said this a lot. With the quarterback position, external circumstances are really important, and surrounding CJ Stroud with talent, in Miami, surrounding Tua with talent and the right scheme is key to how successful that the franchise is going to be. And so I think they, I think they did a really smart job of kind of developing these quarterbacks. So that's where we're at. Perry! And Dan, how are you, Perry? I am fantastic. I'm very excited. Football season's right around the corner. I'm really, really, really excited about this. I was actually looking up some college football, and I was a little surprised. Week 2, Texas, Michigan. Texas is a 3.5-point favorite. I was a little surprised to learn that. By the way, I'm already. This year, I'm going to do a lot more college football. Speaking of college football, I got Denver Gator. Oh, snap. It's Friday night. I'm really excited, Denver Gator. I'm really excited. I'm going to do a lot of college football this year. And for those of you who don't know, Denver Gator is helping out this season, doing some college football talk with me. I'm already looking at the rankings and the scheduling. I'm going to talk a little bit later on during the show, a little bit specifically about Michigan, because I was looking at Michigan's schedule, and they play Texas, they play USC, they play Washington, and they play Oregon. And then you have Ohio State. So I was looking at Michigan, and I'm like, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the Michigan Wolverines, and I'm like, there's a possibility Michigan can be looking at an 8-4 season. And I'm going to bring that up here in a little bit. But without further ado here, I'm going to bring up, we're going to start talking about the NFC. At the very end, I'm going to give my postseason predictions. I'm going to give you kind of an idea of how I think things are going to go in the NFC this year. But I'm going to go through all teams, and I'm going to give you my predictions. I'm going east to west. So I should have started off with this. Right after the season, this is kind of how I was looking at the NFC. I thought the Cowboys 12-5, 12-5. They lost. Remember, Green Bay upset them. Massive underdogs. This is kind of what I was thinking. I think they're a push. And then pre-June 1st, this is kind of what I'm thinking. I love Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer is a phenomenal coach, and he's an excellent defensive coordinator. I really think that there's a strong chance that this defense could even improve. Micah Parsons, I'm really excited how he fits. I know that there's some, nature with Parsons, but the talent's there. Marshawn Nealon, I'm sorry, the second round pick out of Western Michigan is there's a chance he could have a monster season as a rookie. I didn't put that down in my notes, but another thing is that they drafted a Cooper Beebe and Tyler Guyton, two really good, powerful, big offensive linemen. There's a chance that Dallas Cowboys have maybe the best offensive line in football. That's not that far-fetched, even with two rookies. Best case scenario, Dallas is a Super Bowl contender. Let's be very honest. This is a Super Bowl contender. There's a handful of teams in the NFC that are Super Bowl contenders. Dallas is one of them. I'm going to level with you, though. I think that they don't make a Super Bowl, and I think Zimmer takes over in 2025. The big question is do they retain Dak, or do they say, you know what, we can spread this money around, make some moves, draft a quarterback? Remember Trey Benson was third overall pick just a few years ago. And I was just reading something about where he feels like he's super comfortable in the offense. Maybe they just want to give Benson a go. There's 101 different things that could happen during the offseason, but just going into the season, this Super Bowl talented team, I think they fall short, and I think Zimmer will be the head coach. I think that's the whole reason you bring him in, because you're building that defense up. Things work out great, but Jerry Jones, masterful job by Jerry Jones. He's preparing for if 2024 doesn't work out by bringing Zimmer in now to take over in 2025. I think it's genius. And hey, look, you have a Super Bowl caliber team this year, but you have a contingency plan already in place. Great job. Next is Philadelphia Eagles. Here's a drill. You're bringing in Vic Fangio, and I think that's a genius move defensively. And you give him some help. You bring in two really talented corners in the draft, including Quinton Johnson, my number one corner. I think he will play right away. I think he's going to be good right away. But the Vic Fangio defense is really, really, really difficult, and it puts a lot of pressure on corners. So him and Cooper DeJean, they need to play really well, really fast. And if they're able to play well, this defense is going to be amazing. I didn't put it in here, but Nolan Smith, if you do, I have a buddy of mine does fantasy football. He does defensively. Nolan Smith's going to have at least 10 sacks this year. There's a chance he might win Defensive Player of the Year. For those of you who remember, he was first round pick, 30th pick overall in 2 years ago, and he barely played last year. He had a shoulder issue, but watch him at the combine. I thought he was going to go top 15. And watch him on tape. He has all the tools to just be an absolute superstar. He's going to take over for Hassan Reddick. Eagles defense is pass rush anyway. It's not going to miss a beat. But under Fangio, I think this defense is going to be good. The Kellen Moore offense, I have some real questions about. He's always been a pass-first type of coach. How's that going to work with Jalen Hurts? Because I know some Eagles fans think that Barkley could be an MVP, but that's not really the case. You don't need Barkley to be an MVP. You need Jalen Hurts to be the MVP. You need this is a quarterback driven league, not a running back driven league. So you have a pass happy coach with a team that's really built to run the ball. How's that going to work out? I think that on paper, the Eagles have the best talent and the best team. But man, when they fell apart last year, remember they were 10-1, finished 11-6. That really bothers me quite a bit. And I look at it like this: I think the Eagles' defense is going to be just fine. I think they'll bounce back. I question the Kellen Moore, Jalen Hurts fit on offense. How is that going to work? Is Kellen Moore just going to say, you know what? Let's just lean on running the ball, and Hurts can make enough throws. Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown may be the best duo. Maybe the best duo in football, all football. No disrespect to Cooper Kupp and Puka, Noda, whatever. But the Eagles may have the best duo of receivers in the league, so we're going to find out here. So it's going to be a very fun season in the NFC East. I think it's a two-man race, to be honest with you. I just think it's just a battle between Dallas and Philly, and the other two teams are just going to kind of battle for third and a possible wild card. But I think these two will go neck and neck throughout the whole year. Speaking of the bottom two in the NFC East, I got next up is the Giants, and here's the drill. They're going to give Daniel Jones neighbors. And yeah, Perry, I think they will, man. I really do. I'm going to reveal at the very end of the live stream how I have who's winning the divisions, and I'll go over all of that. But Vic Fangio, for those of you that don't know, longtime linebacker coach. He picked up Devin White. You have Nakobe Dean. For those of you who know your NFL history, Vic Fangio was the linebacking coach for the famous Dome Patrol, who I think is the best linebacking crew in all of football. So that's going to be tough. So we're going to find out. This is a great question. At Denver Gator, I don't have the answer to that just right off the top of my head, and I should. And you're right, because if I'm the Eagles, that bothers me. So they're going to play the AFC South and the NFC South, it looks like. Let's see here. No, they're playing the NFC North. Ooh, yeah. Oh boy. I'm sorry, the AFC North. So Philly's got Cleveland, Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. They got 2-week stretch in November and January the 1st where they travel to LA and then come back and play Baltimore the following week. That's going to be a tough one. Rams on Sunday Night Football, but you're going against the division. And bottom line, the Eagles really, 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 I would really think that they just need to not be a pass-happy offense, and just let that defense work. I think the defense is going to be much better. That's my opinion, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't know why I'm drinking an energy drink. I'm number 2 of the day. My energy drink addiction's on full blast right now, but I'm going to have number 2. Trust me, I don't need it. I don't know why I'm drinking it. I do have 1 bottled water here also. Jones plays bad early. Locke will be given a chance. Jones better be ready for battle. Dable can't afford to shag around. Philly needs to be balanced. By the way, I'm gonna talk on this first. Philly absolutely needs to be balanced. You got Saquon Barkley. If he's healthy, he's one of the best running backs in football, maybe the best running back in football. He's the best athlete at the running back position. There's a few others I would put above Barkley, but as far as pure athleticism, and I think if you use them right and have Barkley, catch anywhere between 80 and 100 passes, you're going to be in really good shape. But if Philly's bounced offensively, I expect the defense to really kind of bounce back and this to be a very dangerous team. As far as Daniel Jones, I just don't think he's the guy. I love Drew Lock. Drew Lock and I went to the same high school, different years. So I'm a huge Drew Lock fan, and I've always been surprised at how nobody's given him a chance, because when he played in Seattle, he looked really, really good. If he gets a chance and plays well, that might be the best thing for the Giants. I mean, ideally, Daniel Jones proves he's worth the money. Neighbors is as advertised, and the new defense under Shane Bolin, who did a really good job with Tennessee's defense, works out. Brian Burns is really good. And there's no ceiling on how good Kayvon Thibodeau can be. So that's a big thing. You have a front seven with Dexter Lawrence and Thibodeau and Brian Burns that could be one of the best front sevens in football. The secondary is going to be young. Tyler Nubin, he's a second-round pick out of Minnesota. My number one free safety. Really, really like this kid. Reminds me a lot of Antoine Winfield. Also went to University of Minnesota. So I really like these guys. But, I mean, you're in a division that's going to be tough. I mean, you got to produce right away. So that secondary is got to come up to speed. The front seven could be special. And, Daniel Jones, if he's the guy, the Giants could be a playoff team. I agree completely, Perry. Perry says that Barkley can stay healthy and can have an MVP season. Absolutely, but this is a quarterback-driven league. So I think it's more important that Jalen Hurts be an MVP caliber player than Barkley. Barkley, if he's healthy, he's going to get 300 to 400 touches, and ideally he catches about 80 to 100 passes. Barkley, despite being a 235-pound dude who set every weightlifting record at Penn State, is best in space. He plays like he's 205, which is maddening, because I would love to see him excel more between the tackles, just put his head down, get those tough yards. And that's never really been his game. Not even at Penn State. He was always I'd rather make you miss rather than run over you. And it's a little frustrating, but if he's used in open space, he's very, very dangerous. It's going to be very interesting to see how they use him, because Barkley could be an MVP, but I think it's much more important that Hurts and Kellen Moore be on the same page. And if Kellen Moore, former quarterback himself, can elevate Jalen Hurts' play to another level, and Hurts is an MVP candidate, I think the defense is going to be fine. There's no limit to how good Philly could be. I agree completely, and it was funny. Gary came in last week, and he said he'd bet his life that if the Giants drafted Shadir Sanders, his dad, who said he's going to be very involved in where his son plays football, would veto the Giants. I disagree 100%, even though I love Gary, and I hope he joins today. I think when everything's said and done, Shadir Sanders will be the number one pick in the draft. And I think there's a very good chance that the Giants will move heaven and earth if they don't have the number one pick in the draft. I think there's a very good chance that they're going to do everything possible to get the number one pick in the draft so they can draft Shadir Sanders. And that's how I see things going for the Giants. I think at the end of the year, I think Dable is going to be fired. I think that they're going to look for a quarterback. And I think Neighbors may not have a great season, but I think he'll be the Giants' number one receiver. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, but there's a lot to like about New York. I like the offensive line. I like the moves they made in the offseason. I remember Andrew Thomas was a dominant left tackle. He missed almost a whole year. Evan Neal, there's no reason he shouldn't be great. Yes, I don't know why things aren't working for him. It's happened, with several Alabama tackles that come into the pros. The last one, Alex Leatherwood and Evan Neal, haven't panned out for whatever reason, but Evan Neal has all the talent to be a superstar at right tackle. Is he going to get that opportunity? Are they going to move him? Are they going to put him at guard? There's a lot of questions, but here's the deal with the Giants. Your offensive line should be pretty solid. You have your number one wide receiver. You have what could be a dominant front seven, but you have a new scheme under Bolin. It's going to be different. The defense that he runs, and Wink Martindale runs a complex system. Let's be very clear. He runs a very complex system. And you could see it working towards the end of the year, but at the beginning of the year, there were some problems, and there's also a lot of youth. But now you add Brian Burns, you have Kayvon Thibodeau on the other side. I mean, you got pass rushers. You have a stud up front in Dexter Lawrence. There's a lot of pieces in play, but I really think that what's going to happen is I don't think they're going to get it done. I think Dable's going to be fired. I think the Giants are going to try to draft Shadir Sanders. And I think the Giants, because they do have some pieces, they can trade players and draft picks, and it could work. I don't know why Gary believes that, but he came on last week and he said he would bet his life that Deion would try to sabotage his son going to New York, and I don't see it at all. I mean, it'd be honest with you. Let's say my scenario works out. Daniel Jones isn't the guy. Giants are a 4-win team, and they can get the number one pick, or maybe they're a 2-win team. I think that's unlikely, but let's say they can put themselves in position to get the number one pick. I think Deion would push for his son to go to New York, not be opposed to it. And there's a lot to like. You have a good organization. You have a great you have a great market. I mean, the endorsements. I mean, he'll be a multimillionaire just in endorsements alone. I mean, that's before he even plays it down. You have a good offensive line. You have neighbors. You have some talent on that front seven. They may have to trade one of those guys in order to get up to the number one pick, but it doesn't really matter. You still got talent on that team. I don't know why he thinks that Deion would be opposed to that. I do think, if you remember last week, I said I think Tennessee is a good chance to be number one pick in the draft. I think Deion would be like, look, he's not going to Tennessee, and it's a small market. I think the organization could. I mean, you may be looking at another head coach. I think firing Vrabel. By the way, if you're wondering what I'm doing here, my hands are super dry and they're literally peeling. So like I got the dry skin everywhere. I'm wiping it off my desk. I know it's disgusting, but yeah, I don't understand why Gary said that. I'm hoping he'll join and elaborate, because I'm telling you right now, New York is where it would. Out of the franchises who have a chance for the number one pick in the draft, and I think New York's one of them. That's where I would want, if I had a son who was going to be the number one pick in the draft, and I fully believe Shadir Sanders will be the number one pick in the draft, barring injury. But I mean, college football, a lot can happen. Next up, Washington Commanders. By the way, I'm not going to read word for word what I'm saying here. I could blow this up so you don't even have to see me at all, but it doesn't. Yeah. So, by the way, Perry, you're 100% correct. There's a couple of quarterbacks that are going to come out that may be better. I think Sanders is going to put up monster numbers. Joe Horn Jr. is going to be a first-round pick. Travis Henry is going to be a top 10 pick, and he's going to play both corner and receiver. They got another receiver who's going to be a number one. a first round draft pick. So they got 3 guys at receiver that are going to be first round draft picks. And that's why I think Sanders is just going to put up monster numbers in the Big 12 that doesn't have Texas or Oklahoma. We'll talk more about college football, but in the Big 12, you're going to have Utah, who I think is the favorite. You're going to have Colorado, and you're going to have Oklahoma State. No disrespect to the other teams, but those are probably the big 3. And Denver Gator can tell me if I'm right or not, but those are going to be the big 3. So here's the drill. Colorado is going to win between 8 to 10 games. Shadir Sanders is throwing the 3 future first-round picks. He's going to put up monster numbers. He's going to win the Heisman Trophy. And I think that will parlay. And by the way, listen to the way he talks to the media. He's media trained already. And that's going to go a long way in development. Is he the best quarterback? He might not be. He may not be, but I think he's still going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. Denver Gator spitting facts here. New York media is enough to entice Sanders, both father and son. You think Deion talks smack in social media now? Oh, dude, listen, trust me. Right after college football ends, Deion's going to go on a massive media blitz, and he's going to do everything humanly possible that make his son the number 1 pick in the draft, because if you get those endorsement deals, you're set for life. And I've said this many times, a lot of people don't realize this. When you sign an agent, that agent sometimes will do your contract for free, but he takes 50 to 75% of your endorsement money. Usually it's like 1.5 or 2% of the contract, but you get 50 to 75% of endorsement deals. You're still set up in New York. Eli Manning had endorsements for everything: watches, suits, shoes, cars. You think Eli Manning and his family ever paid for a meal? Well, I mean, seriously? I mean, the New York restaurants were, the meals, for the whole family is like $3,000 to $4,000. Crazy for somebody like myself. But I mean, I'm in Vegas and there's several places here that have $100 steaks. And I hear people are like, oh yeah, you got to try one of those. Fuck no, I don't have to try one of those. Dumbest thing in the world. It's popular. Lots of people do it, but if you're Eli Manning, are you paying for one of those meals? No. You think Deion? You think he ever had a car payment when he was in New York? No. A lot of so this is kind of a neat thing, is that there's a lot of companies that work directly with the NFL teams, and so they get promotions on homes. That's for the stars. Like if you're an undrafted rookie, you're not getting a free condo or a free apartment or anything like that. But when you're a superstar or the number 1 pick in the draft, you get a deal. And sometimes real estate agents work with the teams directly. So you get a deal. A lot of times what happens when you're a star player is that a star player will have a place in New York. He'll just rent his place out to you. Like for example, I mean, not it's apple to oranges, but Mekhi Corley, 3rd round pick out of Western Kentucky, staying with Aaron Rodgers right now. A lot of times players have deals like that, and it's really worked through the agents. The agents work out housing deals. If you're a 7th round pick, are you getting a Manhattan condo? No, you're not. But you're Shadir Sanders and you're number 1 pick overall, you're probably getting a deal on like a Manhattan penthouse, that's not available to the public. And that's usually done through the agent, because, you're going to go with the top of the line agent. It may be public that Deion's going to do the contract, but trust me, they'll have some sort of agent involved. That way they get, deals and perks, things like that. But yeah, I would never live in New York personally. I don't see the appeal. I've never been there, so you never know. You never know. Slasher! What's up, Dan and fellas? I'm going through the NFC East. I'm going to go backtrack because I don't know if you've been in the chat or not. I'm going to kind of backtrack, and I'm going to go through my Eagles By the way, I'm going to let you read this. I'm not going to read word for word, but I think Fangio will fix the defense. The Kellen Moore offense and Jalen Hurts is a little up in the air for me. That's the way I see it. Saquon Barkley's an MVP candidate, like Perry pointed out, but I think it's more important that Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts get on the same page, and Jalen Hurts is MVP candidate. By the way, you feel free to read this. You can pause it, check this out. But this is kind of the way I look at the Eagles. I think on paper they're the best team in football. It's just how fast will the offensive and defensive schemes come into play. Because the Fangio defense is taxing on corners, and you get 2 rookies. So how fast are they going to adapt? Can a guy who played at Toledo adapt to a defense that is nothing like what he's ever experienced before? And that's what you're going to get in the Fangio defense. Offensively, Kellen Moore's a high octane passer. If you're wondering what I'm doing here, it's just there's a lot of dry skin on my hands. So. Sirianni getting fired and we hire Ben Johnson as head coach is all I look forward to if we don't get to where we want in this year. I'm going to bring up Ben Johnson because I'm doing the NFC North next. I'm bringing up Ben Johnson, and I have a surprise place to where he may go. I have a very surprise place where he may go next year. So I'm going to go over that at the very end because I think Philly has more talent on paper, but it should be Dallas's division to lose. But let's be honest. Let's be completely honest here. It's a 2-man race in the NFC East. The Giants and the Commanders are not legitimate contenders. They are not legitimate contenders. Let's just be honest here. Let's just be completely honest here. And I apologize for doing this now, but I've worked. I'm working a new job here in beautiful Las Vegas, and one of the problems is I have some. I'm basically having some issues with the dryness, so like I have to put lotion on. I'm gonna have to put lotion on my hands now because like my hands are literally just kind of peeling apart. So I should have done this before the show, so I apologize. But yeah. But yeah, Perry, by the way, over the last 20 years, no teams won the NFC East back-to-back. No team. I mean, Philly last year, 2 years ago, they lost one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time. It's questionable call. And then you go ahead and I might need more lotion here. Jesus. So I apologize. I should have done this before the show, but I was running a little late. But you're right. It's a 2-man race. Let's be honest. It's a 2-man race. I'm going to talk about this. I have a surprise place where he may go. One Pride. What's up, Terry? I'm locking people up. That's a good start. Because I'm starting after I go over Washington really fast. I'm going to go over the NFC North, and I think the Lions play in the NFC North. Will be make a challenge. Washington, New York can surprise. I think they can, and they have all the tools to surprise. The issue with Washington is that Jaden Daniels, who's the number 2 pick in the draft, he's going to be. If Washington does surprise, he has to have a CJ Stroud type of season. But I'll be honest with you, he really doesn't have that supporting cast around him. And I'm meaning specifically the offensive line. There's a massive hole at left tackle. I think they have their second or third round pick. I think third round pick. And if I'm correct, he's out Penn State. I would have fixed that up right away. But remember Johnny Newton. He was their second round pick. Very good pick, by the way. That defensive tackle rotation is going to be a lot of fun. But the only way Washington can make a push is if Jaden Daniels has a CJ Stroud type of season. That's the only way that works. I'm very excited to see that Brian Robinson. 35 minutes into it, I had a name freeze. One of my favorite players in football, Chargers running back. Austin Eckler. I'm really excited to see how those two work together. Hopefully, Cliff Kingsbury has enough intelligence to realize Austin Eckler is better used as a slot receiver than he is in between the tackles. That's something they didn't do the last couple of years with the Chargers for whatever reason. But you're right. Both these teams could surprise, but I really think that this is the two-man race. You have Philly and Dallas at the top. Washington's going under a complete rebuild, and I think there's a very good chance that we're going to see New York do the same thing. But you're right. You're right. These two teams can challenge. I think Washington's going to be around a 500 team. I really do. I really do. Perry, you're 100% correct. It's all about his development. The only issue is you have a major hole at left tackle, a major hole. That's a problem. The rest of the offensive line is so. Young talent. So we're going to see. Slasher says, Jaden Daniels, I feel bad for him. He has a Giants offensive line coach they had from the past season. They really don't have. No, they don't. They really don't. That left tackle is a major hole. Andrew Cosme, if I remember it right, he was out of Texas. He was a right tackle. He played left tackle at Texas, but he's a right tackle in the NFL. Then they kicked him inside. They brought in Austin Ziegler from the Chiefs, who was a backup that had forced into a starting position, who I think is just a dude. Yeah, I don't like the offensive line at all. And Jaden Daniels, I think they're listing him at like 215, 220. That's not a normal weight for him. I remember watching him at Arizona State when he was a true freshman. I'm like, I think the dude's 150. He could get beat up really bad. I mean, look at what you got in the NFC East. You have elite pass rushers abound. All right, we talked about Brian Burns and Thibodeau in New York. You got Micah Parsons and company in Dallas. Nolan Smith's going to be a double-digit sack guy. You watch. He's going to have a great year. And you got an offensive line I think's below average at best. I look at the offensive line. That's a problem. So, fun fact, Carolina's never – wait, no, that can't be right, Denver Gator. They had back-to-back seasons in the 90s. They had to. Because 95, they went to an NFC Championship game. Didn't they go to Super Bowl a few years later? I'm going to fact check you there, but I'm going to find out that. Oh, look at this. I got Funk Morning Nerds. Yes, Funk. By the way, yeah, Terrion Arnold can be a superstar. And I agree completely. I already said that. So, what's up, Funk? Some love for Funk. Perry, maybe, but I don't think he starts to begin the year. Are you? Oh, really? I'm actually kind of curious. I want you guys to tell me about what's going on in Detroit, because that's going to be the first team I'm going to talk about in the NFC North. So we're going to go shift from the NFC East directly to the NFC North. So I really want you guys to tell me about how the Detroit secondary specifically, because that's weak spot on team. Oh man, you won 260 on the Mavs Timberwolves game last night. So just getting back from dude, that's phenomenal, man. Great call. I've been watching little clips from the gym. I just know that the Mavs are underdogs, and I don't know much about basketball, but I was almost tempted to put money on the Mavs to beat Boston. I don't know anything. Might have to ask Keaton Talk Sports about that, but I think the Mavs win, knowing nothing about basketball, and I know they're I want to say it was like plus 160, plus 180. Oh, I love it. You know, I'm a football nerd. So I love it. Denver Gators on fire early. Yeah, Murray struggled a little bit too, and the Cards really spent a lot of time building up their offensive line. Remember, they had Paris Johnson. They traded up with Detroit to take him 6 overall. He played right tackle. Now he's switching over to left tackle to bring in the Bengals right tackle. Jonah Williams, who played left tackle, 11th pick overall in the draft a couple of years ago. Another left tackle that didn't really pan out. Remember he got injured, and then he moved over to the right side. They signed Orlando Brown Jr., but Jonah Williams pans out on the right side, and Paris Johnson Jr. pans out on the left side. There's a chance the Cardinals may have a really good offensive line. I'm going to get to the NFC West last, though. Nolan Smith beefed up from what I'm seeing from him. I saw Jordan Davis was slimmer. And I'm telling you right now, Nolan Smith, I have a buddy of mine who's on a fantasy football league that does defensive players. I'm going to tell him draft Nolan Smith early because he's going to have at least 10 sacks. It wouldn't surprise me if Nolan Smith leads the NFL in sacks. I think he can be that good. And then you have Jordan Davis and another brain freeze, the other defensive tackle out of Georgia. And Bryce Huff, I don't know why he didn't play a lot in New York, but every time he stepped on the field, he looked dominant. Dallas D goes as well as D Law goes, if not his team suffer. I really, I love Mike Zimmer. I'm a Zimmer guy. I think Zimmer might improve that defense. And Marshawn Nealon, their second round pick, I think he could be a stud. But you're right. DeMarcus Lawrence has to play well. Parsons, there's like a rift there, but they'll get that fixed out. Nealon could be defensive player. Could be a defensive rookie of the year. He could have 10 sacks. Easy. So Dallas may suck at football, man. They've had some good luck. Oh God, yeah, they're doing good in everything, man. So is it porn again, Denver Gator? Is it porn again? You just got the Brian Branch. That's a good card, man. And Josh Down. I don't know who that is. I should. Perry will probably be cornerback. Yeah. That's good. I really want to pay attention because I'm going to tell you something. Rakestraw can play. And I don't know if he's going to be the rookie or if Robinson's going to be the rookie. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Meant nickel. And I want to know how that's going to work out because I would be surprised if Brayshaw actually outplays Arnold earlier in the year and earns that number 2 spot. And then you have Arnold. Remember, he played safety. You could get a little creative with a guy like that. I'm really going to pay attention to you guys telling me what's going to happen because I was looking through the Detroit Lions, who I'm going to go over here in just a little bit. And Aaron Glenn was a former first-round pick at corner. And you got 2 first-round caliber. Josh Downs. Okay, I know what that is. All right. I just drew a blank for a second. Yeah, my hands are goofy, but yeah, I apologize for messing with it. But it'll be interesting to see what happens because that secondary is the weak spot. The front 7, I think, is solid. I think the front 7 is solid. DJ Reader is, if you're not familiar, DJ Reader is a stud. He is a stud. He's a guy that I agree with you that would look much better in Chiefs red than Honolulu blue. But yeah. You need to look up Broderick Martin. Dude got yoked and really. So by the way, I've said this a few times, and I've always drawn comparisons to John Dorsey's time in Kansas City and what he's doing in Detroit. You may not remember Don Terry Poe, but Don Terry Poe, I remember year 2 of Don Terry Poe's career was year 1 in Andy Reid, and me and a buddy went to training camp, and we were like, "Who's 92?" We couldn't figure it out, and then we were like, "Is that Don Terry Poe?" And he transformed his body completely. And for the next 2 years, Don Terry Poe was as good as any defensive lineman in football. Dude was like 330, but he never left the field. So what they used to do is they used to use him as a 0 tech. And then on 3rd down, they would move him to a 5 tech. Remember Haloti Nada for the Ravens, that massive 5 tech who was like 340, but he could rush the passer. That's kind of how Don Terry Poe was. That's what Broderick Martin could be. And that was the reason why I really liked that draft pick out of Western Kentucky, because it just there's a lot of Dontari Poe comparisons. And by the way, that was kind of the thing that really stung John Dorsey, is because he played hardball with Justin Houston. Justin Houston was a 3rd-round pick. He should have been a 1st-round pick, but he had some off-the-field issues. There's rumors they failed a bunch of drug tests. And he said, you're going to have to play a prove-it year after J.J. Watt signed his $100 million deal, because he was an outside linebacker, not a defensive end. And so he wanted, I think it was like 50 or 60 million. And what happened is, thanks to Dontari Poe playing at 5 tech, well, you have to double team a 340-pound dude because you don't want that dude hitting your quarterback. Justin Houston ended up with 22 sacks. Would have been Defensive Player of the Year, but that was one of those years that J.J. Watt hit 20 sacks. And he won Defensive Player of the Year. Justin Houston was 2nd. Instead of getting that 60 million, the Chiefs had to give him over 100 million. And that was kind of the downfall of John Dorsey. Did some other things that was not good as general manager, but as in, I know he's not the official assistant general manager, but there's so many. Here's the thing. I keep watching the Detroit Lions. They remind me so much of the Kansas City Chiefs that Dorsey took over as general manager in 2013. They won the Super Bowl in 2019. A lot of similarities. But yeah, Broderick Martin, if he does that same transformation that Dontari Poe did, that could be a great player. I thought it was a great draft pick. A lot of experts didn't like it, but I saw the comparisons between Dontari Poe and Broderick Martin. I'm going to watch that because that's something that could be awesome. Yeah, Brian Branch that should have been the 1st-round pick of the Chargers, and I'll stand by that. I liked him out in North Carolina. I just drew a blank. I don't know why. I think Rakestraw could actually be better early on. So, if you don't have to, you don't want to throw in those young guys in the fire right away because they don't perform. They lose a lot of confidence, best trying to live up to being a 1st-round pick. Absolutely. And I think Rakestraw, could play right away and maybe be better than Arnold right away. But Arnold was like the best free safety coming out of high school. And they basically had him replace Brian Branch, and except that they're like, no, forget playing safety, just stick to corner, and it was a smart move by Alabama. I'm curious how they're going to use him. It sounds like Rakestraw is going to take over at nickel, and Branch is going to move to strong safety. He said that they plan on running a lot of single high press man. And you know it's funny because if I was Detroit, I would call Branch a strong safety, but I would move him everywhere. I would have him play deep middle, halves, blitz, nickel corner, because that's a strong suit. And Rakestraw would be an excellent nickel. I think he would be an excellent nickel. I remember in all the scouting reports, I never heard inside, outside nickel corner, but that's what I saw as a guy that could play nickel. He could also play in the outside. It would not surprise me at all if in 2025, your 2 outside corners are Arnold and Rakestraw. It wouldn't surprise me at all. He's that good. I think Rakestraw is that good. I really think he's that good. You can just put him outside, but I think he can play inside, outside. He's really good. He is very, very good. Reader should be a Chris Jones type for us. He should take up double teams. You're right in the aspect that he should take up double teams. Chris Jones is a pass rushing defensive tackle. BJ Reader really isn't. He's more of a space eater. But he's the type of guy that should cause problems. He really should cause problems. And the one thing I didn't like that the Lions didn't do is get another pass rusher. But you're right. You could get very creative with this defensive line. It should be a lot of fun. Just look at Forbes. He was visibly frustrated multiple times last year because he was getting picked on. Yeah, he's actually a pretty good player. I think he's inexperienced. I understand that. And you also saw, I don't know, did you see the training camp? He looks like he's an Ethiopian. It looks like he's 140, but they're like, a lot of people are worried about his weight, and it's like, no shit. He arrived at the combine at 160. I mean, he played at 150, and it looks like he's just a natural 150-pound dude at 6'1". I don't know if that works in the NFL, but yeah, you're right. I think he could be an excellent player. I thought he needed the NFL 20. He didn't put that on. Slasher, if you're on Twitter, I'll see if I can send you that picture. But yeah, that's a problem. Well, we'll see. I'll go into detail, different video about the different types of defenses. Martin got on the Neil diet, and Reader said he's going to take him under his wing. Reader told Martin he watched film even before he met. Broderick Martin has the tools to be a star. He really does. If you watch him, he was like 330, but had excellent movement and ability. He was a raw dude. And this is the year that he could really explode. And if you have him and Reader kind of going on a nice rotation, Ozarike is a guy I loved coming out of Washington, hasn't panned out. If you get a nice defensive rotation between those three, and then you have Aiden Hutchinson on the outside, I mean, I don't want to get you guys too hyped here, but I mean, there's an outside chance that Aiden Hutchinson is a defensive player of the year. And a lot of it has to do with that. You have to protect your quarterback from interior pressure. So if he gets a lot of one-on-one, you never know. Yeah, Martin needs to take a big step. I'm hearing positive about Jamison Williams as well. Perry, it's a blitz-happy defense with only one. Yeah, Forbes is really skinny. I seriously, I don't know if you saw the same picture I saw on Twitter. He looked like he almost lost weight. And that's a problem. When you're 6'1" and you're that skinny, I mean, look, if you're going, let's say you're playing against the Eagles, you want to isolate him on Devontae Smith, but you get him one-on-one against A.J. Brown, you have no chance. Remember, Christian Gonzalez was picked right after him, and he did get injured, but early on, it's looked like a massive mistake for Washington. Yeah, I won't go into too much detail regarding the defensive schemes, but I am going to go into the NFC North. And if you recall, when I did my video, I looked at Detroit as a 12-5 team, and I gave them a minus. So, yeah, he was. And a lot of other, he got benched, and it really rattled his confidence. And this season, I was expecting him to put on weight. And I saw a picture, and I'm like, oh my God, he can't play in the NFL at that weight. I don't know what you can and can't do. I think he's just naturally a 150-pound dude. That's what I think. And some guys are like that. He may need to wait a few years before he puts on some weight. That sometimes happens. Sometimes your metabolism just naturally slows down. It happens. It really happens. So I remember that. I love AJ Brown. So this is what I said after the season. I expect the Lions to take a step back. Here's the thing. I really thought the Lions would lose players, and they didn't. The Lions looked better. You can say on paper, you can say via Madden. Via Madden's almost a better example, but I mean, this is a team that's better. This was a team that was up by 20 in the second half of the NFC Championship game and got better. There's no debate on paper or Madden or whatever you want to say. I still use the phrase on paper, but on Madden's probably better. But I mean, bottom line, a team that I really thought would be worse. Lots of free agents, can't sign everyone. Well, what do? You sign Amon Ra, you sign Penei Sewell, you sign Jared Goff. Prove me wrong. I'm not going to read off everything here. You can on your own, or if you want to rewatch the video, you can give kind of a case, because I'm going to save these notes for myself throughout the season. Expectations should be sky high. They are sky high, and they deserve to be sky high. This is a team that got better, and I didn't think that would be possible. If Houston can return from injury, same with Davenport. They give us 5 to 8 sacks more than we had last year. Betts is a low-risk flyer. Davenport is a guy I loved. I think it was University of Texas San Antonio, which is, by the way, becoming a powerhouse. They have an NFL stadium built. It's like 78,000. They're now, I think it's, I don't know the name of it now. It was Conference USA. College football's going weird. University of Texas San Antonio, by the way, will eventually be in probably the Big 12, maybe the SEC. It may be a while, but that's quickly building up a lot of hype. And Davenport's a guy that's always had the ability to be a star. He can't stay healthy. Saints signed him to a 1-year deal, played like 2 or 3 games. If he plays 17 games, he's a double-digit sack guy. He really is. He's got all the talent in the world. He's just never been able to stay healthy. He's actually a more physically gifted guy than Aiden Hutchinson. That's no lie. He doesn't have the motor. Obviously can't stay healthy. But Davenport by himself, if he stays healthy, really changes your defense. Houston's a guy I think has to be a sub guy. I don't think you really want him to start. But if neither one of these guys stay healthy, I still think you can be okay. Because you have a nice defensive tackle rotation, potentially. I didn't say this because you signed Jazir Newton. You have Jonathan Allen and the other Alabama defensive tackle. One of those guys could be moved. Could be moved during the trade deadline, and it wouldn't surprise me if the Lions make a move at the trade deadline for another defensive lineman. Lions have a window before Ben Johnson leaves in the next year or two. I could see them back in the playoffs battling for a spot in the Super Bowl, which sounds crazy to say about the Lions. No, absolutely. And I'm going to say this before. I was talking about Ben Johnson. There was a thing that he talked about why he didn't sign up for one of these spots, and because a good enough position didn't open. The position that he could take, and I alluded to it earlier, is the University of Michigan job. And you're saying, Dan, they already got the head coach. Do they? There's lots of guys that come from the NFL to college and it doesn't work. It's a different game. Wink Martindale is bringing a very complex NFL system to college. Is he going to be able to dumb this down enough? Because his system's hard for NFL players to figure out. What are you doing in this age of college football when you're bringing in a bunch of combination of NIL transfers plus 5-star prospects? I mean, he's never coached in college football. At least he hasn't in recent history. The defensive coordinator is taking over. How well is him and the guy? Here's a guy who chewed out Brian Dable. What makes you think he really cares what a guy who's never been a head coach before in college football thinks? I mean, he may just be like, hey, this sucks. I'm not dealing with this crap. I'm going back to the pros. And by the way, Wink Martindale, if he left college football under any circumstances at all, would have a job in the NFL within a few days. He's that widely respected, maybe not defensive coordinator job, but I mean, like I said, Mike Zimmer may take over as head coach in Dallas. Are you telling me that Wink Martindale wouldn't go and be like linebackers coach or secondary coach there? You don't think Jerry Jones would give him $3-4 million a year just to coach a secondary guy like Wink Martindale? Sure. Michigan is a 3.5-point underdog week 2 when they play Texas. 3.5 points. That's a big number. By the way, if you're not aware, Texas is loaded. They have a guy named Arch Manning. Yeah, that Manning. And he's a backup. That's how loaded Texas. They got Manning as a backup. You play USC, you play Washington, you play Oregon. You're probably going to lose to Ohio State this year. There's a serious possibility Michigan go to 8-4. If I'm Ben Johnson, there's a good chance I could leave and go directly to Michigan. Remember that $15 million? Michigan would pay that. Michigan has the resources to pay that. Doesn't matter. He never coached in college football before. It doesn't even matter. Don't be surprised if Ben Johnson is secretly eyeing the Michigan job. You heard it from here first. I'm so surprised about turnaround the day. Yeah, I am too. I really didn't think it would work. What a great job. What a great job he's done. What a great job. I'm going to try to get through these comments before I get through the rest of the NFC North here. But, yeah, what a great job. And, by the way, definitely. I mean, he was a candidate last year. Arguably should have won it last year. He's a candidate this year, too. I'm worried about Goff if and when Ben Johnson moves on to be a head coach. I would be, too. I would be, too. And you should be. I mean, it's a let's face it, Dan Campbell, even though he's worked on the offensive side of the ball, he's a tight ends coach. This is a guy who was never really the offensive coordinator, the guy working with the quarterback. So yeah, you should be. I don't think they would be bad when he leaves, Perry. Personally, I just don't think the offensive would be as explosive or complex. Johnson is one of the best offensive minds. Yeah, he is. And I seriously think that there's an outside chance he's holding out for the Michigan job, which, by the way, look at Michigan's schedule. Texas, USC, Oregon, Washington, Ohio State. There's a good chance that this team goes 8-4. You guys up in Michigan, you tell me, what would happen if Michigan goes 8-4? What happens if Wink Martindale says college sucks? Fuck this. I want to go back to the pros. Oh yeah, I can get a job making $3 to $5 million. Yeah, I'll bypass Michigan. Why not? I've seen this happen a lot where guys go from NFL to college and they just don't like it. Wink Martindale's system is very complex for NFL. Can he dumb it down enough for college? Can he do it? It's a legit question. So the Sun God and Sewell need to be signed. They'll keep playing hard because they're great players and understand. Let me throw it around the flip side. Let's say you're Perry, we're close to the same age. What if you worked your whole life and you're 25 and then you achieved your goal? Would your play drop off? I've seen lots of players that once they get that contract, the play drops. Lots of hardworking guys. Bottom line, you don't know. You really don't know. I don't think they will either, but I've seen it before. I mean, look at it this way, okay? You've been working your whole life to get that contract. Now that you got it, is your play going to dip? This isn't me and you. This is a picture you like. What's a Monroe? 25, 26? So he's been working his whole life, loved and embraced the underdog role. You got life-changing money, multi-generational income changing money. Your great grandkids ideally should never work a day in your life if you manage money right, which NFL players don't. By the way, speaking of NFL players not managing your money right, I saw Xavier Worthy of the Chiefs with the dumbest TikTok video of all time. He's got a big wad of ones, right? He's got like 150 ones. Him and his. I'm gonna watch what I say here. I'll use the word girlfriend. In the worst TikTok video of all time. They're just throwing money up in the air. He's parading around his gold chains and his watches, and the comments are mean, and they should be mean. I actually commented, stupid, 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 stupid. Well deserved. When you get this life-changing money, it's hard not to have an impact. Hopefully they don't, but it wouldn't surprise me if Amon-Ra and Penei Sewell play dips. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. I don't expect it to, but it could. Wingo to draft. We drafted in the later rounds. Is looking good in OTA. I'm drawing a blank here on that guy. I'm drawing a complete blank on him. Oh, okay. I remember him, the guy out of LSU. Yeah. So this is a guy that had a 3rd, 4th round grade that just dropped in the draft. Yeah, he's a guy that I think could make the team and could have an impact. I forgot about him. I'll look at this. Oh my God. We have the great one. The talent. The B in the Backtalk Brothers. We have Gooch. Gooch says, hello, boys. Long time. Sorry, I've been incognito. By the way, I haven't hit up Keys yet, but I'm hoping to get Keys to come on the show. You know what's been going on with me. A lot of people don't, but and you know how it's just been hard to get time managed. But man, oh my God, what a treat! The talent of the Backtalk Brothers is in the chat. Yeah. University of Michigan head coach me. Yeah, exactly. But here's the deal: he's the defensive coordinator, taking over as head coach, but he brought in Wink Martindale from the NFL. This could be a situation where it could easily self-destruct. And Michigan's not going to be patient. They are not going to be patient. And there's very, very, very few schools with the financial resources of Michigan. There's a lot of SEC schools that don't have the financial resources of Michigan. They have one of the best training rooms in the country. I remember Jameis Winston had to go to Michigan before the draft, and he goes, yeah, Michigan makes Florida State look like a rundown junior high. It's phenomenal. And I remember he said that, and I was like, wow. And Michigan, I mean, the alumni, the resources. I seriously would not be surprised if they go 8-4 if Ben Johnson says, fuck the NFL, I'm going to take $15 million a year at Michigan, which he can get. They're one of the few schools that can offer $15 million for the right guy. I know it sounds crazy, but Michigan goes 8-4, that can get you fired. Don't be surprised. Maybe Manning's not that good. No, actually what it is, Quinn Ewers is going to be a first-round pick. Very, very – matter of fact, if he came out this year, he probably would have been a 2nd or 3rd-round pick. Really, 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 really good quarterback. Texas is loading up a talent. Texas is loading up in talent. I remember they had Xavier Worthy, 1st-round pick. Adonai Mitchell should have gone in the 1st round. 2nd-round pick. They got their replacements ready to go. The running back went in the 2nd round. Tight end went in the 4th round. I'll bring that up later because both of them went to Carolina. But no, Manning will play a little this year because Texas is going to be in some blowouts. But Arch Manning, when he takes over, will be thrown to future NFL receivers and put up massive numbers. And by the way, so Shadir Sanders will be the number 1 pick in the 2025 draft. Arch Manning will probably be the first pick in the 2026 draft. Yeah, Ewers is going to. You. By the way, we talked about Shadir Sanders may not be the best quarterback in the draft. Ewers may go number 1 overall. He's really good. He is really good, and he's going to put up some good numbers in Texas, even though he lost lots of NFL talent. They're loaded. Texas is loaded. Steve Sarkisian can recruit. Ohio State 2nd to Georgia to win the championship. Michigan 7th overall. Yeah, exactly. Michigan's a top 10 team right now, but they're a 3.5-point dog. And that's week 2 to Texas. So let's say they start the season 1-1, right? Is how good is USC? That's a question mark. Oregon's loaded, Denver Gator. Oregon has a very good chance. Oregon has a very good chance. They got the kid from was it Gabriel from that's going to break Bo Nix's record for most starts in college football because he was the Oklahoma quarterback, went to UCF. He's now in Oregon. They're building something great in Oregon. They really are. So let's just say Texas beats them. I think there's a very good chance Oregon beats them. Okay. USC and Washington, let's throw Washington away because their whole coaching staff left. Just that team could be terrible. What about USC? They're going to have a good quarterback. Went to Wink Martindale system, doesn't work right away. And me and you both think Ohio State's going to beat them. I seriously, I could easily see Michigan going 8-4. So it does. It really does. No, he's not even 20. He'll take over next year, and he'll be a Heisman favorite because Texas is loading up at skill position talent. Ben Johnson has asked why he stayed, and his long-winded answer made me feel like he doesn't want to be a head coach. Yeah, I thought the same thing too, Funk. But I think there's a small chance that I think there's a very, very small chance that if Michigan falls apart, and when I say fall apart, win 8 or 9 games, and they want to move on, they can offer Ben Johnson $15 million and not bat an eye. And if I'm Ben Johnson, and I look at some of these positions, maybe I don't want to go to New York where I have to work with a rookie quarterback. Let's just throw that out there. Let's just say the Tennessee positions opens up because I last week I said Tennessee is probably my pick to be the worst team in the AFC. Maybe I don't want to go to Tennessee. There's a reason. There's a reason. Remember, Zimmer and Kirk Cousins hated each other. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe Kirk Cousins is just a super phenomenal dick, and he's like, I don't want to coach Cousins in Atlanta. What are the other positions that opened up? But I don't know. Maybe he wants the Dallas job, which I'll be honest. Jerry Jones wants to bring in somebody with a little more experience. The Washington position I thought would have been good. Apparently, he had the inside track, and there's all sorts of back and forth about there. But if you're wanting money, just pure money, and that's your number one goal. The University of Michigan job, if it becomes open, would pay you out the most. Remember, I'm drawing a blank. Denver Gator knows the Texas A&M coach Jimbo Fisher. He's still getting it's like $74 million from Texas A&M. It's something crazy. Ben Johnson could beat that. Do you remember when John Gruden was doing Monday Night Football? There was a rumor Texas offered him $100 million. It would have almost doubled Saban's salary at the time. Who's the best place to coach coming up with a head coach on the hot seat? I personally think it's New York, and the reason why is that I think that your offensive line's fixed. I think the front seven's solid. I think Neighbors can be your number one. I think the biggest problem is that as much as I love Devin Singletary, he's not really the guy that's going to take over for a Saquon Barkley. And I think Daniel Jones isn't the guy, but I also think the Giants can put themselves in a position to draft a good quarterback. There's going to be a couple of them, and I think Shadir Sanders is number one. So I would say New York, just off the top of my head, because I do think that Dable is on the hot seat and gets fired. I think it's easily New York, to tell you the truth. I mean, there's a lot of good things about New York, but I've never been a Daniel Jones guy. And I also think that, New York, if you're a head coach, let's just say you're Ben Johnson and you go to New York, I think they'll let you get the quarterback that you want, whether it's Daniel Jones or a free agent or a rookie. And New York's, if you win in New York, they treat you right. I mean, so I think it's New York easily, because I think everything's in place. The offensive line's good. The front seven's solid. Was it Deontay Johnson? He was first round pick out of Maryland, guy I really like, but he's raw. Tyler Nubin's going to be a starting safety, second round pick out of Minnesota. So you have youth, but talent. They're talented. So I think it's easily the Giants. So Giant wants to be a head coach. He doesn't want to put himself in bad situations. What I got, I kind of got that he wasn't anxious, which is kind of a bad sign. But I'm going to level with you. I think there's a low-key possibility that he's looking at that Michigan job and saying, I can just slide right in there, and $15 million a year, that's very, very, very possible at Michigan. Very possible. So in the Sun God want to bring a championship to Detroit. Sun God, dad, ingrained hard work ethic in him. Perry, I agree with all that, but when you work your whole life for a goal and you hit that goal, like it's just kind of natural for you to like kind of relax. And listen, $100 million weighs down a lot of people. I've seen it happen so many times. So we'll see. He says he wants to be sure he can secure a second contract as head coach, which isn't a bad idea at all. Bill Belichick and Andy Reid are two best coaches of 2000. They both got fired in the past. Yeah, like I said, I kind of looked at that when I saw what he said, and I didn't listen to the whole thing. I saw some clips on Twitter. I started thinking to myself, when if Michigan would be the job that he wants? I mean, with the way NIL is going, it's becoming, college football is becoming a lot more like the pro game, where you get roster spots and the money. I mean, you have all the resources in the world, and let's just say you win a Super Bowl. All right, Lions win the Super Bowl, okay? What if you're Ben Johnson and you're just like, well, because here's the deal. If let's just say Ben Johnson year one goes 8-4, you got a built-in excuse. Hey, look, I'm new to the college game. And by the way, if it doesn't work out in Michigan, you can always go back to the NFL as a high-priced offensive coordinator. I just kind of like, I started looking at Michigan's schedule. I think there's a good chance they lose 4 games. I think Oregon's loaded. I think Texas is loaded, and I think Ohio State's loaded. All right. And there's a couple of those other games they could easily lose. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not losing to Fresno State week 1, but we'll see. I love the love for Gooch. Yeah, you saw the video. By the way, it shows a lot of bad character flaws, and I'm being nice by using the word girlfriend, but I think we all know the phrase. Another thing I don't like is that he weighs about the same. I've been losing weight out here in the desert. I'm about 155, and he looks like he's my size. And people are like, oh, yeah, you know, he looks great in training camp. You're supposed to look great in shorts. I'm not. Remember, he has his car stolen too. I don't know if you know about that, but his car got stolen in Kansas City. And by the way, if he's living in Overland Park, where a lot of Chiefs players live, it's a very low crime area. You had to be doing something really stupid to get your car stolen. I don't know if it's been recovered or not, but I was not happy with the Worthy pick. If you were going to draft a receiver in the first round, which I didn't think the Chiefs should have done anyway, I think it really should have been Donnie Mitchell, who went to the Colts, who Howard Bauer, Chris Ballard, I'm sorry, the general manager, was John Dorsey's number 2 guy in Kansas City. Yeah, I agree completely, Perry. I'm not happy. Slasher, I don't know, man. I the way you mentioned many of the guys that got hired, this will be out of the job in 2 years, and he went on to talk about being a play caller and the time constraints. Like I said, I didn't listen to the whole thing. I listened to some clips, and it just kind of got me going that I think he might be looking at the Michigan job if it becomes available. But you're seeing the head coach of Boston College left to take over his defensive coordinator job in Green Bay. Next team I'm talking about, Bill O'Brien was going to be offensive coordinator, decided to take the head coaching job. Remember, he left from NFL to college. And I think you're going to see some guys go back and forth between college and the NFL. I think it's definitely possible. Let me throw out another team. Clemson, who signed nobody during the NIL. They're just pretending business is normal, and it's not going to work. So if Clemson goes 7-5, which is entirely possible, Denver Gator can tell me a little more about Clemson. Big Clemson fan. Clemson's a school that would be able to give a massive contract. Why wouldn't they want to go in the NFL? Completely new direction. That's another plausible thing. And Clemson's got money. They're Denver Gator will tell you they're nuts about Clemson. They really nuts. Hey Gooch, I was hoping. Wingo Ward. Yeah, I know. The last guy who wore 18, Kavion Chasen, wasn't. I think there was one guy in before that, but Kavion Chasen wore 18. He was a dud. Damn shame too, because he was a redshirt sophomore, and I thought he would blossom sooner or later. But yeah, not really a pass rusher, but he's a really good defensive tackle. Really, to be honest with you, I was really surprised he lasted that long. I thought he'd go in the 3rd or 4th round. I would have been happy if Kansas City used one of their 2 4th-round picks on him. By the way, the 2 4th-round picks, Kansas City Chiefs, the 2 4th-round picks Kansas City Chiefs chosen, or both of them are shining in Kansas City. Very exciting for all you guys. In the Vikings head coaching, JJ. Yeah, I'm gonna go over. I'm getting comments on. I'm getting caught up on comments. I'm going to go through the rest of the NFC North. I see Wingo and Pagel rotating, with Wingo being a pass rusher. Yeah, if he pans out. I mean, guys like that get cut all the time. Dan, the problem with your Michigan? No. I understand. So. Kind of walk with me through this, okay? Let's say Michigan goes 8-4 and needs a new coach, okay? Normally, and they did this before Harbaugh too. It was Grady Hoke, who was also University of Michigan. I think before that, the other guy I'm drawing a blank. Before Grady Hoke, it was former West Virginia coach. Also had ties. So you're right. You're right. The last several head coaches have all had ties to Michigan. College football is completely different. I mean, no more walk-ons. Players, roster spots being slighted with contracts, legitimate contracts now. It's basically becoming a pseudo semi-pro league, and Michigan's always been kind of at the forefront. They gave Harbaugh a lot of money. Harbaugh was kind of eccentric. They remember at first they were trying to go to more of a passing type offense, and Harbaugh's like, look, my job's on the line. I'm going to run things my way. They went to a more run-based offense, which panned out. But college football's changing. Me and Denver Gator are going to talk a lot about it, but Michigan might just say, hey, look, we're going to change with the times. And let's just say Ben Johnson wins you guys the Super Bowl. Detroit wins the Super Bowl. Okay. He is going to be the hottest name. And what if you're Michigan and you get that shiny object syndrome and you want to get the shiny big name? You have the financial resources. While he doesn't have any Michigan ties, he brought a Super Bowl to the state of Michigan. That might be enough. And by the way, Ben Johnson may have no interest. When I heard him say that, the first thing I thought of was Michigan's preseason number 7. I was like, let's look at their schedule. Wow, they're underdogs to Texas by 3.5. That's a big number. I was a little surprised. And then USC, are they going to win that game? I think Oregon and Denver Gator will tell you this. I think Oregon, to be honest with you, I don't know where they're ranked. Oregon, I think, should be a top 10 team. They're building something really special in Eugene. I'm telling you this right now. And I probably won't put money on the game because Ohio State could be a 13 or 14 point favorite, but Ohio State is going to beat Michigan this year unless injuries and some really crazy shit happens. But you're right. Traditionally, Michigan's always gone with Michigan guys, and they can turn to a bevy of big names. But if Ben Johnson wins the Super Bowl, he can name his price at Michigan, probably. Maybe Michigan State would be a better fit. I don't know. By the way, like Indiana's doing some good things as well. Wisconsin, I don't think is on the schedule this year, but okay. So Denver Gator brings up a good point. In my opinion, NFL coordinators, coaches will struggle going to college nowadays. Too many moving parts with recruiting, NIL, conference changes, etc. Hard to get into if you're not already into it. I agree, and I also disagree at the same time. It is hard to get into it, but a lot of these, because it's contracts and it's money, recruiting's not the same as it used to be. It used to be if you're Nick Saban, you can walk into a recruit's home and say, listen, the average salary of one of my defensive starters is blank. Nick Saban would go to a parent's home and recruit on how he's going to, teach them discipline, fundamentals, great work ethic so that things will work in the NFL and beyond. But a lot of this is changing where players are now being, presented with contracts, and it's not as much recruiting as it is about pure hardcore cash. And by the way, in a couple of years from now, they're going to put a salary cap. It's going to happen soon. I think it's going to probably happen in the next 2 to 3 years. Is that college football is going to have a salary cap. Another thing is I was talking about this yesterday, but I think the service academies are going to drop down to that next tier. It used to be FBS. I don't know what it's called now, but Division II or it used to be 1AA, but Army, Navy, Air Force, those will be 1AA in the next couple of years as well. But with it being more contracts, it's set up much more like a pro game. So I think I could see more pro coaches going to college because recruiting is going to be taken out of it. It's going to be more done by the boosters and the people writing the checks. more. Did you hear about the Georgia quarterback who's suing Dan Mullen for your Florida Gators? Did you hear about that story? Because Dan Mullen promised him a bunch of money, he didn't get it, so he's suing. Did you hear about that story? It's becoming less about recruiting and more about hardcore cash until there's a salary cap, which isn't there yet. That's why I think that NFL coaches might be able to make a better transition. Might. It's hard to say, man, but I mean, Texas, for example, apparently Arch Manning's not making a dime on NIL money, which is, I think, a little surprising. But like Texas, they have all the financial resources in the world. They're building something really big. Alabama's still getting recruits. Michigan's still getting recruits. The bigger schools are doing a really good job still. So I think college football is going to make some changes in the next couple of years, but I think one of the things that could happen is because recruiting is more about the contract and signing the checks, is that I can see a lot of NFL guys going, well, this is just like, a junior varsity league now, because if I got the best players, I can beat the worst players 10 out of 10 times. So it's hard to say, but me and you are going to talk a lot about college football this season. It's going to be fun. Can you do it? Can you do it with checkbooks? A lot of these kids can be bought. Unfortunately. Can Neil turn it around this year? Which Neil are you talking about? Did Afonso? No, the Tua situation. They just signed Jalen Waddle, and I thought that was genius because you got two really, really good receivers in Miami. Then you signed Odell Beckham. Jalen Wright, who they drafted in the 4th round, I think it's a mistake because you drafted Devin Archain in the 3rd round last year, and you gave up a 3rd round next year to go ahead and get him. He's kind of the same player, a little bigger, but not as explosive. But you already loaded at running back position. You needed some help other areas. But yeah, the Tua situation still ongoing. I hope not, man. He seems to have good head. I hope not. But listen, $100 million weighs a lot of guys down. I've seen it happen over here. We'll find out. Didn't U of M have a top recruit class this year? I think they did. Me and Denver Gator are going to talk about that. I haven't been paying attention, but I know they're preseason 7, and I know that they won a lot of battles in the portal with top players. But yeah, they did have a top recruiting class. That's why if they go 8-4, which is very possible, the alumni are not going to deal with it because they did have a top class. So yeah, let's get to the Packers here. I want to read the rest of these comments here, but yeah, this is my Green Bay prediction as of right now. Report Williams is not doing well. Yes, I'm going to get to that as well. But yeah, I heard that Williams is really struggling early on, and I'm going to talk about the other 3 teams in the NFC North. At this point, college football is dead. Might just turn college football in the semi-pro league. It really is. Now, I don't like the changes, but here's what's going to happen in the next couple of years. There's going to be a salary cap, and that's going to come fast. It's going to come fast. Walk-ons have been eliminated, which is really terrible. They're going to change that so walk-ons will be allowed. They're going to make some changes in college football. They're getting rid of walk-ons for now. That's going to change. I promise you this is going to change. And there is going to be a salary cap, and it's coming soon. I promise it's going to come soon, definitely within the next 5 years. They got the Washington head coach, but the offensive coordinator is now taken over in Seattle. I think the defensive coordinator went somewhere else. He's an excellent X's and O's guy at the University of Washington. He's an excellent coach. Alabama's different than any place it's just different, man. I don't think he's going to succeed. And I said this at the time. I don't think he's really the guy that they wanted. I think that he was the guy they're kind of selling for, because I think they want a really, really big name. Remember, Saban came from the NFL. So I think that what's going to happen is that I think what's going to happen is that he'll get a year or two, but they're going to go back and get a big name. And I'm just not sure who it's going to be. I have no idea who it's going to be. Sorry, I'm sorry. My hands are in really, really bad shape. The desert climate here is not really agreed with me out here. So I've really struggled with my hands. So yeah. Sorry about this, guys. I meant to do this before. I just didn't have enough time. But Rashida suing Napier in Florida. It's not a good situation at all. It's not a good situation. It's one of those deals everybody loses. And by the way, I mean he's from what I've gathered, there's no guarantee he's even going to win the backup spot at Georgia. But yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of an ongoing thing. So I have no idea the specifics, and college football is changing, and what they're going to, like I said, it's going to happen very, 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 very soon. So I've been doing some work with my hands. It's made my hands dry up, and it's been a problem. So like I've been like a couple of days ago, I did like this, and there's like blood dripping down my knuckles. So not dripping, but like, you know, my knuckles are bloody. It looks like I got in a fist fight. So, but there's a lot of more details. But basically, what's going to happen is the NCAA is going to put a salary cap, and then they're going to get walk-ons back in. They're going to make some changes. College football is just really changing all around, and I don't know if it's for the better or not. But it's still going to be popular. It's still going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a fun season. It's going to be a real fun season. So, all right. Let's go on to the Green Bay Packers. What they did, and I'm going to start with the negative first, is that Aaron Jones, the last couple of games of the season, really put the team on his back, and in return, they sent him to Minnesota. Not in a trade, but they cut him. They signed Josh Jacobs to a big deal. But when I watch the Green Bay offense, Josh Jacobs is a north and south between the tackles runner, and Josh Jacobs is amazing. But the one thing, he's never been a home run threat. He's a dude, I think at the combine ran like a 4.6 or a 4.7, and that's how he plays. Somebody's going to point out they had like a long run, you know, and he's broken runs before, but he's not that home run big play type of back. He never has been. Aaron Jones doesn't have that world-class speed, but he's the guy that can break things. The thing is, though, A.J. Dillon and Josh Jacobs are almost the same type of player. It's just, you know, Jacobs is smaller. He led the NFL in rushing a couple of years ago. Raiders played hardball with him. Didn't want to sign him to a big deal because he really struggled. And what it is that he struggles because he's not a dude who's going to have a lot of big runs. He's a tackle to tackle, short yardage kind of plotter type of running back. And he's not a guy. So when I watch the Green Bay offense, I've noticed that the running backs do a lot of like zone stretch type of plays, kind of that zone read offense. For those of you who aren't familiar, go back, watch like the Denver Broncos in the 90s, where basically everybody goes like one side of the field. And then what you do is that you just plant and find an open hole. That's not really Josh Jacobs' strength. Josh Jacobs is a north-south type of dude who's hard to bring down, powerful runner. But I don't know he really fits into that offense. It kind of feels like square peg round hole. And the thing is with the Packers is that The Packers are best when they're a really balanced offense. If Josh Jacobs is an improvement off Aaron Jones, there's no ceiling how good this team can be. Now, we talked about college football. The Boston College head coach resigned so he could take over as the Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator. They let go of Joe Barry, which I'm not sure that's a good move. Now, last year they drafted Lucas Van Ness. For those who don't remember, the Iowa backup, he was 15th pick overall, nicknamed Hercules or Zeus or something like that. You got Preston Smith, you got Rashawn Gary, and now Lucas Van Ness. If you can find a way to get these guys to work together, and I think his name's Henley, the coach from Boston College. And by the way, I have no idea how this is going to work. I mean, this could be great. This could be awesome. But I'm gonna level with it. Like when I look at the Packers offense, and I'm a huge Josh Jacobs fan, I don't see it working. It looks like square peg in a round hole because Josh Jacobs is that north-south type of guy, and you already got that in A.J. Dillon, and you're giving Jacobs a lot of money. Now you have a new defensive coordinator coming in. Now you have pieces in that front seven. Okay, so you got some pieces. You got some young defensive backs. Jair Alexander has all the tools to be a top tier corner. I also didn't Green Bay draft Max Melton, or did he go somewhere else? I'm drawing a complete blank. I should know this. I just drew a complete blank. I just drew a complete blank on where Max Melton went. I thought he went to Green Bay. I should know this. I can't. I'm so embarrassed. I'm having to look this up. No, never mind. He went to he went to Arizona. God, I hope. Yeah, he went to Arizona. That's right. I can't believe I have to look this up. I'm so embarrassed. He went to Arizona, not Green Bay. So as much as I love Jacobs, I'm not sure he really fits. I think there's a very good possibility that if Josh Jacobs doesn't work out, that this offense could kind of unravel. You have a brand new defensive coordinator who's been the head coach at Boston College for the last couple of years. There's no guarantee that that's going to work out either. There's a very good possibility that Green Bay could be a sub 500 team. There's a very good possibility. Very good possibility. A lot of people don't think that could happen, but yeah, you could. Your first round pick has to play left tackle. By the way, your first round pick is from California, played at Arizona, and now he's going to be asked to play in the cold. Not everybody can do it. Watch two in the playoffs last year. So. All right, Perry. You're right, Terry. So here's the deal. Green Bay has always been this way where they want to run the ball, wear down teams. They want to have an extremely balanced offense. But when I watch Aaron Jones at his best, he's running outside, and Josh Jacobs doesn't do that. Josh Jacobs is a tackle-to-tackle guy, and that's what you have A.J. Dillon. See, with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, you had an excellent complement. You had an inside-outside guy. Josh Jacobs is not an outside dude. He's an inside guy. So you have inside. And that's why like all the teams that he went to, I really questioned Green Bay, because there's a few other teams I think it would have been a better fit. I really do. For example, Chicago. Who, by the way, they got Swift, and that's going to be interesting in its own right. But to tell you the truth, I think Swift going to Green Bay would have been a much better fit, or Saquon Barkley for that matter. But you already got A.J. Dillon. That's why you already got that guy that can get you those tough yards. So that's why I'm a little confused on why they did that. But I will say this: if it works out, there's no ceiling how good this team can be. Because Lucas Van Ness has all the talent in the world. Are you going to go ahead and get it turned around? I mean, like, he flashed last year. Preston Smith's there. Rashawn Gary, there's no ceiling on how good he could be. Michigan guy. Yeah, Cards had a good draft. So, bottom line, I'm a spoiler alert. I do have Green Bay making the playoffs, but are they going to do what they did last year and upset Dallas, or are they going to be a team that has to rely too much on Jordan Love and you lose? Because the NFC, I think this year is going to be a lot more competitive. Perry says Morgan may take some time to develop. I think he can be a solid starter or about above average left tackle or about an average left tackle. Yeah, I had several guys. So here's the deal. He was injured his junior year. He came back and had a good senior season. He has good athleticism. But look, the Pac-12 doesn't have the same level of pass rushers as the SEC. And I would have gone in a different direction personally. There's several other guys I liked better. Like I said, you're a dude from California. You played football. You played college at Arizona. Now you're going to Wisconsin. Good luck. Because not everybody likes the cold. I hate it. So, yeah, the Cards had a good draft. So did Dallas. Dallas had a real good draft. By the way, Cooper Beebe and Tyler Guyton could both be day one starters. Both those guys could be in the Pro Bowl as rookies. So, next up, I got the Minnesota Vikings. I kind of forgot that they had Andrew Van Ginkel. I think that Ginkel and Flores could be a lot of fun. Jonathan Greenard, is another guy that's going to be really good. And then you go ahead and you trade up for Dallas Turner. Those three outside linebackers, I'm going to call them outside linebackers, because they're really going to play different positions. And there's a good chance that all three of these guys are going to be on the field at the same time in like some obvious passing situations that could cause some problems. There is a possibility. Now, Geekel's not a high sack guy, but Greenard got 12.5 last year. A lot of people don't realize this. Will Anderson had 8.5. Greenard had 12.5. And Dallas Turner is I think just as good as Will Anderson, almost. I think Will Anderson's better than Dallas Turner, but there's not really too much of a drop off there. So you have a guy like Ginkel who can do a lot of things. Greenard had 12.5 sacks last year, and then you have Dallas Turner. I put down that those three guys could get 50 sacks between the three of them. I know that sounds like a really, really crazy high number, but this defense is going to be very, very crazy. But I mean, I seriously think there's a very strong possibility that both Greenard and Turner can get double digits by themselves. And I'm kind of curious how they're going to use Van Ginkel, but 50, it's probably realistic be 40, but it is realistic. The Flores defense was a lot of fun to watch last year. And I think they need some more players, but oh, you know what, Perry, you're right. Perry says, I'm just trying to make sense what the Packers doing. Here's what I think they're doing is they're trying to be a very balanced offense that's leaning more towards the run. Remember, they drafted 2 tight ends last year. Both of them got injured, but they got 2 really, really, really good tight ends. The kid out of Oregon State and then Tyler Croft, the kid out of North Dakota State. But both these guys are going to be world class, and I think what they want to do is that's kind of, you're going to see that be kind of the new trend for the next, I think, couple of years. Teams trying to do a lot of 12 personnel, multiple tight ends, because the best tight end, well, Travis Kelce just got a raise for the next 2 years, so he's making, I think, 17.5 over the next couple of years. But the best tight end in football makes almost half of what the best wide receiver makes. So what do? Well, you build your team more around tight ends, and you can be more of a running type of team. And I think that's what they're trying to do with the 2 young tight ends and then the 2 running backs, is that they're trying to be more of a run-heavy team. Defensively, I'm completely confused. Yeah, Dallas Turner has a day 1 impact. And here's the thing, because I completely forgot about the Van Ginkel signing. So you have Van Ginkel, and you have Jonathan Greenard. So he doesn't have to be a starter, but he has to contribute day 1. If he does, this defense could be really, really good. I mean, people forget Minnesota had like 4 starting quarterbacks last year. And if McCarthy just comes in and just plays even like slightly below average, that's an improvement. And that may be able to get you a win or 2. I don't think 9 wins can get you into the playoffs in either the AFC or the NFC, minus, the NFC South, where last 2 years Tampa Bay's won with 8 wins, then 9 wins. But I think if you're not in the NFC South and you win 10 games or you win 9 games, I think you're on the outside looking in. But if McCarthy is a day 1 starter, which I expect, and he plays just, I don't know, somewhere between 19 and 24, like you're in rank the quarterbacks 1 through 30, 32, and he's somewhere between 19 and 24, but he's consistent, shows improvement, you can be that 9, maybe 10-win team if the defense improves. And there's a good chance that even though you lost Daniel Hunter, you're replacing him with, Greenard. Sorry, I keep saying yard, but it's Ard. Van Ginkel and Dallas Turner, and you're paying those 3 guys less. And there's still some good pieces on that Vikings defense. So, I mean, here's bottom line what I see, and I don't want to read what I wrote verbatim. I just kind of want to talk, but I think the Vikings offense is going to have some growing pains, but I think the Vikings will be about 500 team, but I think they missed the playoffs. I think we won't have a cakewalk in the NFC North this year. No, I don't think so either. I don't think so either. Teams will be lining up to knock us off. Many of my Lions fans are overlooked. You're right. It's human nature. Everybody wants to be the underdog. I know a lot of Chiefs Kingdom. Nobody thinks we can do it. Most Chiefs fans are playing the underdog role. I mean, we're back-to-back Super Bowl champions, and most Chiefs fans, it's human nature. You want to be the underdog. You always want to be the underdog. Nobody thinks we can do it, and Lions can't do that anymore. The Lions played like they have a chip on their shoulders. Can you do it when you're the favorite? It's night and day different. And the natural human reaction is to try to play like you are the underdog. I've been encouraging Chiefs fans to do just the opposite and go into the season, hey, we're the bullies, we're the best. But it hasn't worked. But you're right. You don't want to overlook Green Bay, and you don't want to overlook Minnesota. Now let's get to the Bears. I was just commenting. There's Max Crosby has a YouTube channel, which is amazing. He interviews a bunch of players, and he interviewed one of I think teammates or former teammates said, who's the best receiver? And he goes, there's a lot of them, but I'm just going to say it's Keenan Allen, who's now with the Bears. Keenan Allen is on the wrong side of 30, but he's one of the best receivers I've ever seen. I really think that there's a strong case if he has another couple good years that he's bound for Canton. I think he's that good. Underrated dude. Now, the Bears, the defensive coordinator had to resign early in the season, and then the Bears defense struggled, and then they made the move for Montez Sweat. And once they made the move for Montez Sweat, they acquire Montez Sweat, which they signed the offseason, that defense was really good. really good. Defensive coordinator Eric Washington's a guy I think is a low-key head coaching candidate. He's done a fantastic job, and he's going to take over as defensive coordinator with the Bears. If that defense is a top 5 unit, and look at these offenses here. You got Green Bay and you have Detroit. So if you're a top 5 unit, again, there's a chance that he's going to be a head coach candidate. We talked about some names. A lot of people don't know who this guy is. This is a guy who's on the radar of a lot of NFL teams. Really well-respected guy. He's going to take over as a defensive coordinator. There's a chance this Bears defense could be really, really good. It's loaded with talent. It's loaded with talent. The Vikings can be a solid team. Yeah, I mean, the Flores defense is very confusing, but that's why I kind of like the Dallas Turner, because Dallas Turner did a lot of things at Alabama. It's going to direct directly with Flores. Remember, Flores was in New England for a long time, and Bill Belichick and Nick Saban are extremely close. I just watched A Football Life of Nick Saban, and Bill Belichick's in a lot of it. So the Dallas Turner, Brian Flores, that could work really, really, really well. That could work really, really well. And Andrew Van Ginkel was a guy everybody's saying is a Belichick type player. Well, why aren't people calling him Brian Flores type player? Because he is. They're doing some nice things on that front seven. I have a lot of questions about specifically the corner position in Minnesota. I don't like their corners. I'm drawing a blank. I'm so embarrassed. The safety, the white kid. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on his name. Anyway, he's going to be 33 or 34. So can he still play at the same level? I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Harrison Smith. God, I love that guy too. I'm so embarrassed. Williams needs to learn fast and tough up. If it don't, it can be ugly. I completely agree. Here's the deal. I've said this so many times. Everything surrounding the quarterback has to work. The reason why Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the NFL is because he went into the perfect situation. He got to sit and learn behind Alex Smith. He had Andy Reid as the head coach. He developed an immediate friendship with, I think, the greatest tight end who ever lived in Travis Kelce. Then you're in a great situation with the organization. Caleb Williams, I don't know, man, because giving him the starting job before he even arrived, I think is a massive mistake. Chicago's a tough sports town, man. It's a tough sports town. And I mean, the whole crying after the games stuff, multiple games instead of sucking it up. I mean, I'm telling you right now that's not going to work in the NFL. I mean, if he's crying after games, this could be terrible. This could be really terrible. This could, I do think Caleb Williams will be a bust. I'm on a level with it. I think he could be a bust because what he did great at USC and all that excitement does not translate to the NFL at all. That scrambling around, running around, playing, I'm going to call it street ball. That stuff doesn't work in the NFL. He has to be an NFL quarterback. And what consequences does he have when you make him the starter right away? So, yeah, the head coach is an offensive guy. Oh, you're talking about for the Vikings. Yeah, you're right. Williams was a risky pick. I'm going to be honest. I really think the Bears whiffed, and they should have stuck with Justin Fields. I think they should have traded down, got a bunch of draft picks. The interior of the offensive line still isn't going to be that good. I really think he's going to struggle. Does he have enough mental toughness to overcome a rough number one season? I seriously, it would not. I actually am predicting it. There's going to be a time where I'm going to see Keenan Allen yelling at Caleb Williams. I can almost promise you that. So, yeah. Yes, Chicago's a tough sports town, man, and they have a really good defense there. Caleb Williams, I can tell you this: Keenan Allen. Look, Keenan Allen's played with Phillip Rivers and Justin Herbert. You think he's going to put up with Caleb Williams acting all prima donna after watching those two guys? No. So we'll wait and see. But yeah, I think it's going. I think it's going to be a disaster. I really think it's going to be a disaster. It's a shame because the Bears defense looks really good, and you got DJ Moore and you got Keenan Allen, and these are two really, really, really good receivers. Even though Keenan Allen's on the wrong side of 30, really, really good player. So we're going to start. I'm going to go from this is the order that I'm breaking the teams down because it's the way they finished last year. It's not my prediction on how they're finish this year. I'm going to get to that at the end of the video or the end of the live stream, video, whatever. Did I mess up here? Oh, okay. Here it is. Okay, I don't want to do that. So he's from DC and he played at Oklahoma. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. I don't think it's going to be a problem. You know, DC will get cold. Oklahoma gets cold, so I don't think that'll be a problem at all. Baker Mayfield lost both the quarterback coach and offensive coordinator to Carolina. Todd Bowles the defensive mind, so I think it's natural that Baker Mayfield's going to regress a little bit. Excuse me. Okay, I guess I don't have to sneeze. I love what they did in solidifying the offensive line. I thought they were going to go in a different direction. Instead, they solidified the offensive line. It's a really, really, really. Who do you have as the Bears' backup quarterback? It's Tyson Bagent. He's that guy who started a few games last year and actually played well, even though I think he played at Division II school or something like that. Him and the guy from New York came out of nowhere. But Tyson Bagent's a guy that I think this could be a problem because Tyson Bagent, I think, if Caleb Williams starts to falter, I think people will call for Tyson Bagent. And Tyson Bagent, by the way, like not an NFL starter, but he threw for like a jillion yards at it was like a small Division II school or something like that. And he's a natural passer and he's a perfect backup. He's going to be in the NFL for a long time as a backup quarterback. But I mean, here's a guy that had no business making the Bears roster, just played his way to number 2 guy. And then when he did get a chance to play, he actually didn't play terrible. Doesn't have the NFL arm, but he understands offenses and he can dink and dunk. I mean, if the Bears had a solid running game and built the team with a solid running game, kind of like what Green Bay's trying to do, that would be a lot better for Caleb Williams. But I think what they're going to try and do is have Caleb Williams carry the whole offense, and I think that's a major mistake. But Tyson Bagent is a guy that if everything else is working, yeah, he can win you a few victories. Not an NFL arm, but he's a guy. I actually predict he's going to play some this year, and I think it's going to be an issue because I think he's going to be a fan favorite. So they didn't do that, and this is why everything surrounding the quarterback has to work. This is why Bryce Young had a bad year and C.J. Stroud had a good year. Is that the only reason? No, it's not the only reason, but it's a big reason because C.J. Stroud, Nico Johnson, number 1 wide receiver. The offensive line was good. He's well coached. Part of it had to do with a weak AFC South. So we'll find out. The AFC South, it absolutely could be. Denver Gator is out. Great stream as always, brother. NFC leaders for each division. LA, Detroit, Philly, and Tampa. Denver Gator, man, thanks for joining. I know it's a long show, so I get it. I'm glad you're here for a little bit. I will. I meant to call you this week. I'll explain. It's a good reason. Trust me. I'll try to get a hold of you soon. But I Got my phone right here. As soon as the live stream ends, I'll check the video out. I'll try to get a hold of you. I'll try to get a hold of you soon, man. Apologize for that. With Tampa Bay, the improvements on the offensive line is smart. You have two really good receivers in Godwin and Evans, and I think the defense is going to be really good. I don't like their corners at all. And I really don't, nothing against McCullough and Jamal Dean. They both have potential. They both have size, excellent size speed combos, but I haven't seen enough out of them. Keep in mind Todd Bowles' defense, it's more of a zone scheme. They're not asked to play a lot of man, but this is a This is kind of a fun team. I don't know that they're really a threat to be a Super Bowl team. But if Baker proves that he's more the reason why he was good instead of Canales, who's of course taken over head coach in Carolina, this could be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to Tampa Bay this year. Remember, the last 2 years they've been dead last in rushing. They didn't get a running back. They're gonna rely on Baker Mayfield smartly because he stepped up to the challenge, and a really good defense. It's going to be this is a low key fun team. Oh yeah, I'm going to get to that here. I'm doing the NFC last, but yes. The NFC West is going to be brutal. Next, I got the Saints. Saints finished with the same record as Tampa Bay, but they lost the head-to-head competition. They beat Tampa Bay once, then they advance to the playoffs. Kind of a fun team. So what happened is Pete Carmichael, longtime offensive coordinator, he's gone. He's being replaced by Clint Kubiak, who I think will be a future NFL head coach. Yeah, it's that Kubiak, same guy. The biggest problem with the Saints, there's two. The biggest problem is the offensive line. So they drafted Fuega, who they're talking about maybe not playing right tackle. We played in college, maybe playing in left tackle because Trevor Panning's been a bust so far. Offensive line's a problem, and they went from 48 sacks in 2022 to 34 last year. They signed Chase Young to a one-year deal. Now, he didn't do that much in San Francisco after they traded the third-round pick for him. He only had 2.5 sacks during the regular season. Did have a sack in the Super Bowl, though. But if Chase Young can be the player they think, this is a team that's one of my kind of super sleepers, because I could see the Saints with a good pass rush in the offensive line. There's a good chance Clint Kubiak turns this offense into a run-heavy offense, and then Derek Carr could really build off of that, because I've always been a Derek Carr fan. I think he's kind of underrated. I don't think he's ever going to be elite, but this is a team that could be all over the place. If Chase Young can be the player, remember he's number 2 pick overall 5 years ago. Yeah, it's 5 years ago. His rookie season, he looked like he was going to be a superstar. Never remained that. If he looks that way in a Dennis Allen defense, watch out. Tampa Bay can find an offensive coordinator to help Baker. If he can't, Bowles may be on. Yeah, you're right. And they do have a new offensive coordinator. I'm drawing a blank on who it is. But him and Baker Mayfield, because they didn't get a big name free agent, or they didn't draft a running back, which I think they were going to do one or the other. What happened is they were trying to have a balanced offense, so they couldn't run the ball. Part of it was offensive line. Part of it is, as much as I love their running back, drawing a blank on his name, love him too. Crap. But he's a Kansas City local kid, went to JUCO, fell in love with him at Arizona. Rashad White. Rashad White's a guy, I think he had something like 70 or 80 receptions. He's more of a third down back, not really a bell cow. And I really thought they were going to bring another running back. They didn't. But what they did is that towards the end of the season, they wisely made the decision just lean on Baker Mayfield, and it worked. And they're going to do that this year. And if it works out, this is a team that could be really good. But you're right. If it doesn't work out, Todd Bowles is on the hot seat, believe it or not, even though he did take the team to the playoffs, did win a playoff game. If this team goes 6-11 or 7-10, Bowles could definitely be fired. Yeah. And so the plan was, and this bothered me because I listened to the Saints press conference after the first round, and they said, we know Fuega can play on the right side, but we may use him on the left side. We're just going to kind of play around. That's not a good sign when you draft a guy at the 13th. I think it's 13th pick overall. And you say, I don't know where we want to play him. That's not a good sign. ESPN has him listed as starting left tackle, and Trevor Penning, the former first-round pick from a couple years ago, as a backup. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign at all. Ideally, in a perfect situation, Trevor Penning finally pans out and becomes a stud at left tackle. Fuega, plug and play on the right side. Rest of the offensive line falls into place. They adapt to Clint Kubiak's system, which is pretty simple by NFL standards. It's the Saints are a team can be all over the place, but we'll see what happens. Do you think Kamara running back? Absolutely, because this running game's perfect for him. It's just a question of, I think the offense is really going to be built around Kamara, and can he handle 350 touches? Because he was at his best when he was splitting carries. He's not going to be asked to really do that. Now, Jamal Williams, I think, could also step up this year, but Alvin Kamara, I think, is best used when you give him like 15 touches a game, and Williams needs to be, it really needs to be like a 1 in 1A, and not Kamara's getting 300 to 350 touches and Williams is getting 150. But yeah, I do think this offense is going to be tailor-made for Kamara. It's a question of health and do they overuse him. But yeah. Next is the Atlanta Falcons. And I mean, look, I love Michael Penix Jr. I really do, but I still don't understand why you passed on a pass rusher, because you take a pass rusher at 8 and you win this division easily. Instead, your front seven has holes, and Cousins has to adapt to a new scheme, looking over his shoulder. This could be really good, and this could be really bad. I agree, because here's the deal. Winston's gone. You really don't have a backup that can really carry the load. You drafted Spencer Rattler in the 5th round. He may end up being the backup. Bottom line is that offensive line's a mess. And if they can't fix the offensive line, he's gonna be hurt. And I think that they're gonna look at Spencer Rattler as a legitimate backup quarterback, and I think he can handle it. Right now, ESPN has him as 3rd string, and there's no guarantee Spencer Rattler is going to be the number 2 guy. But if that offensive line doesn't work, then yeah, Carr's health is a definite issue. So. Carolina is next, and here's the deal. I saw a Panthers fan complain that PFF, and you guys know how much I can't stand PFF, had the Panthers as their 30th best team, and Panthers fans were complaining, and I didn't respond, but the Panthers should be 32nd because they lost 4 key defensive players on that defense, but they wisely signed Derek Brown to a big-time deal. Here's the drill. Xavier Legette, Jonathan Gannon, and Latarius Sanders are all raw dudes that you're trying to get Bryce Young to work with a questionable offensive line. I don't know. Well, this is a great question. Perry asked, will Penix start over Cousins at this point? Need to get the most out of him on the rookie deal? No. And that's the problem, is that they have no intention of starting him. They're going to make him sit for 2 years, just like, Jordan Love or Patrick Mahomes. And then they're going to throw him into the fray. And I don't like that at all, because you have a defensive-minded head coach and you have all this talent on offense, but you have a big hole at pass rusher. That's why you should have drafted a pass rusher. But it won't be this year. It probably won't even be next year unless it's injury related. And I don't like that at all. I'm still baffled by it. I don't like it. But if it's not injury related, it won't be. And here's the problem, and I keep saying this over and over again, it's quarterback depends on what you surround your team with. So he still has a weak offensive line. Is starting in a perfect world. So here's the deal. Gannon, and by the way, apparently he's going to be healthy. He tore his ACL in November in college. They're expecting him to enter training camp at 100%. Which I'm really floored at. But if he enters training camp at 100%, even though they had Chuba Hubbard, even though they signed Miles Sanders to a lot of money, he's going to be the number one running back, and he has all the tools to be a star. Tearing your ACL in college is a big deal, but you remember Curtis Martin hurt his knee his senior season, never a problem in pros. Frank Gore tore both ACLs and both knees, never had a problem in the NFL. So if Gannon's one of those guys who ends up, and by the way, there's a very good chance that he could be, there's a very good chance that he could be rookie of the year. But if he's a starting running back and Xavier Legette lives up to potential, they have Ike Ekwonu at left tackle. He was a guy I fell in love with. I thought he was the best player in the draft. Hasn't been able to live up to standards. So you have a porous offensive line. I don't care that he's short, but I care that he weighs less than 200 pounds. So can Bryce Young hold up to the punishment? That bothers me, because the offensive line, they spent some money on the offensive line. I don't know if it's going to work. And Nicky Ekwonu hasn't proved that he could be the guy. Remember, he was the 6th overall pick. Can he be that guy? Because if he can, and all these high-priced additions pan out, Legette, Sanders, and I'm going to look on here, Brooks, all pan out, this could be a surprise team. This could be a surprise team. I was a little surprised. I didn't know this, but Jake Plummer's kid was a rookie free agent of the Panthers. May make the team as third string guy. I thought it was really cool. I like Jake Plummer, but I think they're a year or two away, because they lost so much talent and starters on defense. I do think, like, if you're playing Madden, this would be the lowest ranked team. This is the least talented team. That's my opinion. But if these 3 rookies pan out earlier, this could be a very surprising team. Yeah, exactly. Here's the deal. By the way, their other pick in the first 4 rounds. So they drafted Legette in round 1. Remember, they traded up. They went from 33 to 32. Then you go ahead, they traded up again so you can get Brooks. And then in the top of the 4th round, that's when they drafted Sanders. The 3rd round picks a linebacker who's going to probably start day 1. If all 4 of these players pan out, there's a chance that this team could be really, really set up for a really good 2025. I think this year is going to be a struggle. I see no way it's not going to be a struggle. But if Young gets better, The offensive line solid. They spent a lot of money. I think they overpaid, but they kind of needed to. So we'll find out. Yeah. No. Jake Plummer was a first-round pick out of Arizona State. Jake Plummer was a first-round pick. But he had that great he had that great bowl game. I'm on a rant about it, but no, he was first-round pick. Finally, we are getting to the NFC West. So what they did is they promoted from within. They promoted Sorensen. He was the linebackers coach, I believe, to now the new defensive coordinator. They fired Wilkes after he lost the Super Bowl. I thought that was a major mistake. The defense was really, really good. I'm not sure what prompted this. I think it's a mistake, but we'll find out because the defense is still one of the better defenses in football. This team will make the playoffs. Brock Purdy, does he take the next step? I mean, he had a great season last year. Does he continue to improve? I mean, remember in the first round, they drafted the kid out of Florida. So you got another weapon. I thought it was a great pick. They call him a tackle, but he's going to be Dominic Puna out of Kansas. He's going to be a starting guard. He's going to earn a starting spot. Could be an improvement. This could be a team. I think they have to take a slight step back. But if Purdy is better and they justified a reason for firing Wilkes, which I'm going to stand by, was a terrible move. If they do if these things happen, there's no reason why San Francisco can't get back. I 100% believe that 49ers will be in the playoffs. It's just I don't think Purdy's elite. I don't think he's that guy. And I question if the defense is going to be the same unit because I think firing Wilkes is a big mistake. So if you fire Wilkes, Purdy's not that guy. You could be 10, 11 win team, go into the playoffs and not have enough to get going. I said this every single show last year. I said the same thing. You can't count on Christian McCaffrey to play 17, and he did. But does he do it again? Kittle's never been a guy that's able to stay healthy. But when he is, he's as good as anybody. All right, so the Rams. This is pretty simple. Stafford stays healthy. This is a playoff team. He doesn't, then you have all sorts of questions. You got Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's going to miss, I think, 4 to 6 games, a suspension. I don't remember what that's all about. They drafted really, really well. I was really impressed with the Rams draft. Really, really impressed. I think that the Rams, in my opinion, they were a team that took Detroit to the limit in Detroit. Stafford easily outplayed Goff, but the rest of the team that Detroit had was better. You're not going to replace Aaron Donald, but I love the 2 front 7 additions from Florida State in the draft, and their 3rd round pick out of Tennessee, drawing a complete blank on his name, but give me a little bit of credit here. I know who he is. I'm drawing a blank on his name. There's a chance that this defense, Tre'Davious White, they also signed in free agency, is a guy that remember, he's former defensive player of the year, really, really good football player, just littered with injuries last couple of years. There's a chance that this defense is much improved. There's also a chance this defense takes a massive step back. You honestly have no idea. If Stafford's healthy, this team's going to be a playoff team. I like Wilkes as a defensive coordinator. I think he got the shaft because of Shanahan, had to blame someone. I agree completely, and I think it's a major mistake. Shanahan was the reason they lost. Purdy's an above-average quarterback. Exactly. I don't think he can. I don't think he is the guy that you can just say, hey, look, hey, Purdy against Mahomes, who's going to win? Well, come on, it's Mahomes. So yeah, but they built a great team around him. But I don't like the firing of Wilkes. I think it's a massive mistake, and I think it's going to haunt them. Yeah, the Rams the last 2 years have drafted extremely, extremely well. And I agree. Perry says the Rams draft smart. I think they got better overall. And I agree 100%. So since they got better overall, Stafford stays healthy. This is a very, very dangerous football team. With the Seahawks, I'm gonna level with you. I didn't like the Mike Macdonald hire, and I like Mike Macdonald as a head coach, and he's going to switch defensive schemes. It's going to take. I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I think they should have brought in an offensive coach because you have in DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba maybe the best trio of receivers in the National Football League. Kenneth Walker is really, really good. The offensive line could be surprisingly good, but I really think that they should have gone with an offensive guy and just tried to say, look, we're just going to try to score 30 plus a game because they got the tools to do it. They're bringing in the offensive coordinator from University of Washington. God, I don't know how this is going to work. I'm going to level with you. I don't think this is. I like Mike Macdonald. I love the defense that he had in Baltimore. It's going to take some time. I think it's going to take another draft and another offseason to add the pieces. Geno Smith's a free agent. Sam Howell, I think, who I'm hearing they're just going to keep him as the backup, not even give him a legitimate chance to start because you're bringing in a new offensive coordinator. You already got your starter in play, Geno Smith. You need Geno Smith to get as many reps as possible. Sam Howell might be better. I've never been a Geno Smith guy. I could see a situation where McDonald transforms his defense and the offense is a top 10 offense and this team's good, but I think firing Pete Carroll was a mistake. And I think that I think Seattle will struggle. And I think because Geno Smith, if I'm correct, is free agent after the year, you may have to, this could be a very, very dooming for the Seahawks. So. Yeah, if Stafford and Cooper Kupp can stay healthy, absolutely. If Cooper Kupp and Stafford and Puka Nakata, I mean, they're seriously, the Rams are dangerous. Perry says it comes down to Will McDonald can coach if he can find a smart guy. Seriously, he's a defensive guy. They're bringing in the offensive coordinator from the University of Washington for the last 2 years where Penix had all that success thrown to a trio of NFL receivers. There's so many question marks here. So many question marks. And then finally, Arizona. Arizona's my sleeper NFC team because I love what they did in the draft. I think there's a strong chance Trey Benson, who is my number one running back going into the draft. I didn't like the fact that I wouldn't put a running back coming off an ACL injury as my number one running back, which almost universally everybody did. Trey Benson is a guy who's 215, 220, ran, I think it was a 4.39 at the combine. And you watch Benson's highlight reels, he's a big deal who has home run speed. Now, you have a guy like Jonathan. I think it's not Jonathan Gann's head coach. You have Connor. I think it's John Connor, but that might be the Terminator. But anyway, you got Connor as the bell cow running back in Arizona. Okay, great story. Beating cancer, powerful runner, runs for a bunch of touchdowns. If you're Connor, you can look at it this one or two ways. Benson comes in, he's here to take your job. you can be a complete dick to him. You don't want to show him anything. You don't take him under his wing because he's there to take your job. And I get it. And I'm a very good chance I'd be the same way. But if you decide that, hey, look, I'm going to get a lot of touchdowns. This guy's younger, much, much faster. And if I help him out and they have a nice 1-2 combo, there's a chance with Kyler Murray as your quarterback. I seriously think that there's a strong chance the Cardinals may be the surprise team in the NFC and go to the playoffs because Kyler Murray, all he has to do is stay healthy. He's an MVP candidate. He legitimately is. How much hype is around Marvin Harrison Jr.? Is there a chance Marvin Harrison Jr. is a top 10 receiver this year, right now, as a rookie? Yeah, there is. It's legitimate. Very legitimate. And you're right, Perry. I'm going to read both these. These are fantastic comments by Perry. The Seahawks general manager is a very good general manager. Keep in mind, this is the first year he has player control because Pete Carroll had player control up until now. You need to give him a chance to show he can bring the Seahawks forward. McDonald might be like Mayo, ready to fail because they follow a legend. That's also a possibility. Byron Murphy is a nice pick, and you're going to put in with Leonard Williams, so you're building up that defensive line, but you lost your top 3 linebackers in free agency, including Bobby Wagner, who's going to be in Canton someday. How are you going to fix that? They brought in some guys, but I don't know, man. By the way, they did hit out of park on their draft. Max Melton was the guy I was talking about earlier. I think he's going to be a stud. If Connor and Benson can work together, this Benson, I'm gonna level with you. I think it's almost better that Benson be a rookie of the year candidate more than Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a wide receiver number 1. Okay. I think he's going to be a top 10 receiver this year. But if Trey Benson lives up to that potential, and you have Benson and you have Marvin Harrison Jr. as 2 superstars in the making, with Connor, who's going to do all the short yardage. Kyler Murray's an MVP candidate. All he has to do is stay healthy. You can do some great things. You got some good pieces on defense. Max Melton, Darius Robinson, man crush on Robinson. This is my sleeper team. I think they're a year away. But I think, unlike a lot of people who think that this is going to be a 4 or 5 win team, I think this is going to be a team that hovers around 500. This is the playoffs this year, and it's going to be very scary going forward because they really had a phenomenal draft. Yeah, they have a good offensive. They have some good tackles. They improved in the interior offensive line. I forgot who it is that they got. And Walker's a really good running back. And this is why I really thought that you have 3 good receivers, a really good running back. Don't forget Zach Charbonnet. He was looking really good. Seattle should have gone offense. If you're going to move on from Pete Carroll, go with an offensive guy. And just say, hey, look, we're going to try to score 30 each game. But they did just the opposite, and we'll have to see if it works. I know I've been talking for a while. I had a lot to cover. My favorite thing in the world, just talking football. I can do this all day. I'm almost done with my energy drink. I haven't touched my bottled water all that much, and my throat's kind of. You see me shifting around. I for some reason I can't get comfortable in my chair today. All right. Here's where you oh yeah, I mean, look at this. Henson's your number 1. Benson could be the number 1, but you're gonna switch with James. It's James Conner, right? Robinson's a guy that I think could be awesome in the right defense, and I think he's on the right defense. And Melton, I think, is going to be a stud. My sleeper NFC team's the Cardinals because I love what they did in the draft, and I seriously think that if Connor and Benson work together as a good 1-2 combo, there's seriously the ceiling's high, and Jonah Williams could be a star at right tackle, and Jackson could be a stud at left tackle. Remember they traded up to 6th in order to get him, so no. If he stays healthy, he should be he should be an MVP candidate. He really should. We'll find out. This is my prediction on the NFC. I'm going to show it to you right now. And I'm hesitant to do this because I have a lot of Detroit Lions fans. I don't want to pander to Lions fans. I don't want to be the guy who's trying to get along with you guys. By the way, Perry, you may not be able to. I haven't done a full dive on his contract. You may not be able to. You may be stuck with him, whether you can or not, because that contract, he's still got 3 or 4 years on that deal. You may not be able to move on. You may want to, and you may not be able to. And that's the problem. Is not only can you not move on from him, when you get a backup in there, you have to run a different offense. There's a lot of problems. So he has to pan out. That's the problem. So I don't want to pander to Lions fans, but the reason why Detroit's my Super Bowl pick for 2024 is that they're the only team in the NFC that was a legitimate. By the way, no disrespect, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay wasn't a legitimate Super Bowl team. I don't think Green Bay was, even though they beat Dallas. I don't think they were either. I think San Francisco was, and I think Dallas was, and I think Detroit was. Dallas, you never know what to get. San Francisco took a step back, but Detroit took a step forward. Bonus picks. I think Brian Dable will get fired. I think Eberflus, the coach of the Chicago Bears, will get fired because I don't think he'll make it work with Caleb Williams. I think the blame will be more on Williams. I think Eberflus will go become an offensive coordinator somewhere, and I think he'll be wildly successful, but I think he'll get fired. I think McCarthy will fail to I think he'll win. Dallas, I predict, will win a very tight NFC East. To tell you the truth, to be honest with you, I think I intended to flip-flop those. No, I'm gonna stick with it. I think with Philly, I think the two coordinators may take a little bit of time. I think defense will be fine. I think offense, but I seriously, I think Philly. So I think you're going to see a Philly Tampa Bay rematch, except I think Philly advances. Dallas, which could be the 2 or 3 seed, maybe the 1. You never know, but I think Mike McCarthy doesn't get it done, and I think that he gets fired. And I think Dennis Allen. I think with the Saints is that they have so many starters that are over 30 on defense. The offensive line's a mess, and I think Derek Carr's good, but he'll never be elite. So I think that. I think this will be the year that they just kind of blow the team up. And so I think these 4 coaches will be fired. If Murray is healthy, his team is fighting for a wild card at minimum. I think that they're going to hover around 500. I really do. This defense was not good last year. And while they did get help in Robinson and Melton, I don't know if that's enough. I really don't know if that's enough. I also don't know if enough is done on the offensive line with Murray. If Benson becomes a rookie of the year candidate and Marvin Harrison Jr. is a top 10 wide receiver, then that offense should be good enough to that if Arizona's defense is just middle of the pack to be a 10-win team. I don't know about wild card, but I will say this: Arizona is kind of my sleeper team in the NFC, because I think that if everything pans out, and this means Benson having a massive impact this year, this team could be scary good on offense with some young talented players on defense. But if our young guys keep developing on offense and defense, we could challenge for the Super Bowl, but we need luck in being healthy. Our O-line is old, and that's a concern. I do agree with that, but I also think that your offense will be good enough that if your defense just improves a little bit, you should be able to win 12 games. And ideally what you want to do is you want the last game or two of the season, ideally two, but realistically one, that you can rest starters. And I think that with the 17-game schedule, you really want to get that 1 seed so you can rest starters, and you may have to. You may have to do it. I know I said this. A lot of Chiefs fans are mad because I don't have the Chiefs as my Super Bowl pick. The Chiefs got really lucky with injuries last year, and Chiefs. Oh, Nick Bolton was out for 6 weeks. He's one of the best. Yeah, he is. But how many other guys were out? Not that many. I mean, the Chiefs had a stroke of bad luck, with I'm drawing. I can't believe I forgot his name. God, their best offensive lineman. I'm just drawing a complete blank. Here are your bottom teams in the NFC. I think I'm going in this order. So Giants, Bears, Panthers, and Seahawks. I think there's a chance the Seahawks are just flat terrible. And part of that is that this division is tough. I mean, I know that they've always played the teams in the division pretty tough, but I think there's a good chance because the defense is I've never been a fan of an early bye. I think the only time you really want an early bye is if you draft a quarterback early and you want to set him on the bench, but you want to start him like mid-season, like week 5 or 6. Like ideally what the Vikings do is let Darnold play the first part of the season, and then after the bye, put McCarthy in there. But the Chiefs have a bye early. I don't like it. I think it's always beneficial to get a bye later. But as far as my bottom teams, I think with Washington, I think with Washington, it really depends on how fast Jaden Daniels and the offense but I can see Washington also being a bottom team. So eventually the NFL in the next couple of years is going to go to an 18-game schedule. And I think that the proposal will be an 18-game schedule and 2 byes, but they're going to nix one of the preseason games, so it's going to go down from 3 to 2. So it'll just be 2 preseason games, which NFL teams don't want to do, but that's what will happen. And then it'll go from 18, and then I think the NFL does need 2 byes. I really do. I think, and I'm a small minority, I think it should be a 14-game schedule with 2 byes. That way you're almost fully healthy. But eventually it's going to be 18 weeks, and 2 byes will be presented. And it very well could happen. It very well could happen. But Washington could be included. The Saints could be included. And Arizona could be included. But I think with Arizona, if Kyler Murray's healthy, I think they'll be around 500. I think Seattle could just be a dumpster fire. I really do. I could see the offense just not working and the defense being terrible. And I could see Seattle just like, hey, we made a mistake. I could also see Seattle just going, hey, because, by the way, if you're not aware, this next draft is going to have a ton of defensive talent. They're going to have there's about 3 or 4 offensive tackles that are going to go in the first round. There's about 3 or 4 quarterbacks. But it's going to be a ton of defense. There's a lot of really good defensive players. I'm already looking at the draft. So. Speaking of Sam Darnold, do you think the Vikings start JJ day one or just let Sam Darnold and let JJ start later in the season? If I was the Vikings, I would have Darnold play the whole year and have McCarthy play as little as possible. But I think the plan is to have McCarthy go day one. I think McCarthy's I think they're just going to throw him right into the fire. So, this is a great question. Perry goes, your surprise hot seat head coach. So, I don't know if you can see this here, but I put in the bottom here, I think these 4 coaches are going to get fired. My surprise hot seat head coach is Kyle Shanahan. And you're going to say, Dan, there's no way Shanahan gets fired. I think the Wilkes thing is a massive mistake. Purdy's not elite. McCaffrey and Kittle has some issues staying healthy. Deebo Samuel's not been able to stay healthy. San Francisco's had 3 straight years of 10-plus wins. When if Trent Williams, who's going to be, I think, 36, when if he's not the same guy? Father Time's undefeated. When if the defense slips? When if McCaffrey can't play 17? This team does not have a lot of depth. If the 49ers go 7-10, and it's definitely possible, I've seen weirder things. They just decide to move on from Kyle Shanahan. And a lot of people would bristle at that, but I've seen weirder things happen. Nick Sirianni, if he doesn't get it done, he's definitely a possibility. But I think Kyle Shanahan, I think the firing of Wilkes is a mistake. And I do firmly believe that the Rams are going to win this division. I really do. I like what they're doing in LA. I really like the draft. I like the way the team's built. The biggest question with the Rams, in my opinion, is can Stafford play a full season? I mean, at his age and with the injuries he's acquired over the years, it makes some sense. But yeah, I think Kyle Shanahan is a surprise if the 49ers fall apart, and I don't see that. You're right. Listen, Trent Williams is 36. I mean, he missed 3 games last year. They lost all 3 of those. I don't think Brock Purdy's elite. You need an elite quarterback. Is the defense going to be the same? I don't know. Sometimes you overstay at a place. And by the way, San Francisco would be a great if you're a coach and the 49ers job became available, even if you had to have Brock Purdy as your quarterback, it's a well-run franchise, great owner. Great John Lynch, an excellent general manager. He's made some questionable trades, but overall great general manager. This would be a surprise, and it's only if the 49ers just fall apart, which there's not a lot of depth. Purdy's not elite, and McCaffrey and Kittle have always missed some games. So yeah, that's my surprise. Guys, I'm going to wrap up. Next week will be we'll hit the start of the June 1st free agency. We'll kind of tune up. I'll kind of just go over some of the signings and how I see teams going up and down. There may be some big names that are signed over the next couple of days. The June 1st free agent period will start tomorrow. So next Friday, hopefully we'll have a lot to talk about. I am going to try to bring on a guest. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but that's where I'm at right now. So I went over my AFC and NFC, but keep in mind there's a lot that could happen over the next couple of months, so things are subject to change. After the 4th of July, I will break down all 8 divisions. I'm going to do 8 long division videos, but I'll put chapters in there. That way you can just skip to your favorite team. But please watch everything in the videos. It'll come out sometime after the 4th of July, but I don't have a start date yet. Perry says if our young guys on offense develop, golf absolutely could have an MVP season. Absolutely. Yeah, the Lance trade, and yeah, because remember they gave up 3 number ones, and the Chase Young trade hurt or help. I mean, you got to the Super Bowl, but you lost, and you got nothing to show for a 3rd round pick. Nothing. So that note, I'm going to end. Don't forget, give me a thumbs up. All comments are welcome. All my social media is below. Still off Facebook. Probably, I don't know what will happen. I did set up a second Facebook account, but I'm not really using it. But I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. Send me a message. I will respond to all of them. If you drop a comment below, I will respond to that. And I'll be back next Friday.